Hey everyone, Renesmee here. Welcome to episode 3. The story's heating up, so let's jump straight into the next chapter of What If Bella Craved the Man He Became. Plug in and enjoy. Fan the flame. Bella, I heard someone whispering my name. Oh yes, Edward, do that again, I answered in my dream. Bella, wake up. I heard a whisper again. Just like that, Edward. Bella, if you keep talking in your sleep, I'm not going to be able to leave. Edward sighed louder this time and shook my shoulders. I opened my eyes. It was barely light outside. Edward was already dressed. No, I don't want you to go. I don't want to go either, but I have to, Edward whispered and kissed my cheek. Let me make you breakfast, I offered. I can't, Bella. I need to get on the road. I made a pouty face and climbed out of bed. I tried not to let myself wake all the way up. Maybe if I didn't wake up, it wouldn't hurt so badly. I followed Edward into the living room. He had his bag and his guitar by the door. I went into the kitchen and got the Ziploc bag of cookies that I'd made him. Here, I made these for you to take with you. I held out the bag to him, and he smiled warmly at me. I was wondering what all that baking was about. He took the bag out of my hand and set it on top of his guitar. He turned back to face me and took both of my hands in his. Bella, thank you for everything. This time with you has been amazing. I don't even want to imagine my life without you in it. I'm so in love with you. Tears filled my eyes. I had so much to say, but the only thing I could squeak out was, please. Don't go. I could already feel the hole that he would leave behind forming. Bella, he groaned, and his face looked pained. It's temporary. Before you know it, we'll be together. Okay. I nodded my head and did my best to believe him. I love you, I croaked, barely able to talk. Please, Bella, please don't cry. He reached up, taking my cheeks in his palms and wiped the tear that had fallen down off my cheek with his thumb. I knew I was being too emotional. I didn't have to make this harder than it already was for either of us, but I didn't want to let him go. I buried my head into his chest and held onto him with all my strength. He rubbed my back and tried to comfort me. I was a mess. I worried that no matter what happened, we would never have a time like this again. It would never be this perfect. Life wasn't usually sunshine and daisies. It was usually rainy with occasional sunny days. Especially in Seattle. I've got to go, his voice cracked. I nodded and let go of him. He picked up his things, and I followed him out to his truck. He loaded it up and turned to give me one last kiss. I tried to put all the love I had for him into the kiss, but it was impossible. He rested his forehead on mine for a few seconds and took a deep breath. I love you. I know. I love you too. We'll talk all the time. We're lucky. With technology, it will be just like I'm here. Maybe you can strip for me on Skype, I suggested. I saw that on TV. Whatever you want, Bella, he chuckled. After one more quick kiss, I watched as he got in his truck and drove away. I sat on the porch for a few minutes, blinking away the tears and praying he would turn around and come back. I waited until I was sure that wasn't going to happen and went inside. The days dragged by. I had finally tasted happiness and what it felt like to have a true companion, but now he was gone. My only consolation was his daily phone calls. He called me when he first woke up. Those were unusually early for him, like around 10 his time. The poor thing wasn't used to working mornings, but he was spending long hours tweaking his songs and recording the demos. The morning phone calls usually consist of him yawning a lot and asking what I was wearing. He called me at night and told me about what he'd done that day. He was really pleased with how the demos were turning out. He was nervous about his meeting with the producers from the publishing company and what kind of contract they would offer him. He felt like this would be the deciding factor of whether or not he had made it. He had an opportunity to get greater exposure and bigger royalties. He was so excited when he talked about it. He said he could write songs anywhere, so if I got assigned overseas, he could go with me. The fact that he was planning his future around us thrilled me. Every night he talked to me until I was ready to go to bed and then whispered sweet nothings about his love and devotion to me before we hung up. The only thing that could have made it any better would have been for him to be whispering those things in person. In addition, he'd been updating his blog every day. 10.14.09. Fill me. There's a hole in my chest where I ache for you. I ache for your laugh, your touch, your body on mine. There's a place in my heart you have branded. It is seared with your smile, your declaration, your kiss. There's a dream in my soul of only you. I dream of your softness, your vows, your all. 10.18.09. I would walk 1,000 miles for your kiss. I would brave land, sea and desert for the one I miss. The cold of winter. The heat of the day. Why am I here when you're so far away? It rhymes smiley face, I never rhyme, but I thought you might like it, dear. That one had me cracking up on the train on my way into work. People were looking at me like I'd lost my mind. Why was I here? Part of me just wanted to quit my job today and move to Seattle. If I didn't get the job at the newspaper, I could always work at Starbucks or an organic food store. I could just hear my mom's reaction to that one after all the money she and her husband paid for my journalism education. 10.22.09. Come softly to me and whisper forever in my ear. And I'll show you always with a tender touch. Oh dear. That one was a bit much. I wanted him here, touching me. Now. I couldn't wait to get to Tacoma. I was trying to control my breathing when Edward called. Hello. What are you up to? Oh, nothing. I lied. I was not about to give him the satisfaction of knowing that his blog had me all hot and bothered. What about you? It's early for you to be calling. We took the day off today. We finished the demos, and Tanya wanted the day to listen to them and see if there is anything we need to record over. Oh good, you needed a day to rest. Yeah, but as home long enough for Alice to corner me. He sounded frustrated. Oh no, what did she say? That's the weird thing. She just asked how you were doing and made small talk. She didn't lecture me or meddle. I'll be honest, it freaked me out. Maybe she's coming around, I said as hope sparked in me. Well, she hasn't answered your calls yet, has she? No, I sighed. I miss her. Not as much as I miss you. Oh, you're good, I giggled. You're about to ask me what I'm wearing, aren't you? Edward let out a hearty laugh. You know me too well. I couldn't stop smiling, because he was right. Later that night I was surprised to get a call from Drive. Cullen. Bella dear, how are you? I recognized her voice immediately when I answered. Dr. Cullen. I can't believe it's you. This is a wonderful surprise. Oh dear, call me Grandma. Your family now. Whoa. That was more than I was expecting, but Grandma had a ring to it. Okay. Grandma, I laughed. I'm so glad to hear your voice. Listen, dear, Edward tells me you'll be in town next week. And it just so happens I'm scheduled to lecture at UW that week. I've already informed him that I will be taking the two of you to dinner, but I wanted to make sure you keep Thursday night free for me. Oh, of course. But well, I paused. What's the matter, dear? You and Edward will still have plenty of time for hanky-panky. I'm an old woman. I don't stay out late. No. Oh my gosh, not that. I giggled nervously. It's just that I haven't told Alice I'm coming. She isn't speaking to me actually, and I'm worried about how she will react. Pish posh, Alice is a spoiled brat. I love her dearly. But really she needs to get her own life, besides I'll see her plenty. We won't tell her a thing about our secret rendezvous. It will be just like my days in the CIA. I laughed, but I had no idea if she was joking or not. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if she wasn't. Sure. Drive. Cullen. Oh, I mean Grandma. I can't wait to see you then. Me either, dear. I can't tell you how happy I am to have a kindred spirit like you in the family. You're the best thing to happen to us since Jacob taught me to use a cell phone. Well, thank you, I laughed. Of course, now take care of yourself until I see you. I will. Goodbye. Ciao, she said, and we hung up. Edward called me in the afternoon, but I still expected him to call me that night. I waited, and finally around midnight, I called him. He didn't answer. So I left him a message, told him he could wake me up later if he wanted to talk, and went to bed. I woke up the next morning and wondered if maybe I'd turned my ringer off. Nope. Everything felt wrong as I got ready for work. Why wouldn't he call me? What if he was hurt, or dead, or in Vegas marrying a stripper? I had difficulty focusing at work. I kept losing my train of thought while writing. And when one of my sources called me back, I couldn't remember what story I'd called them about to save my life. Noon came and went and still no call from Edward. I skipped Lou. NCH so I would be sure to hear my phone if it rang. He was probably just busy, or his phone died. I did a terrible job on my story that day, and my editor sent it back with a big WTF. He knew how I hated cussing. I barely got it fixed by the deadline. I was in a terrible mood by the time I got home. Why hadn't he called? I checked the blog. No update. By the time I went to bed that night, and I still hadn't heard from him. I cried myself to sleep. He'd obviously had second thoughts. I hoped he would at least be man enough to tell me. He probably met some beautiful girl who was sophisticated. She was probably French and blonde. I hated her. I hated him. I hated my life. How could he do this to me? Part of me knew I was being ridiculous. Edward loved me. I knew he loved me, but I couldn't figure out why he wouldn't have called. I woke up to my phone ringing. I looked at the clock, and it was 5 a.m. Hello. Bella. Are you okay? I've been worried sick. Edward. I sat up quickly in bed. What do you mean? Why haven't you called? Why haven't you called? He said, sounding confused. I texted you the night before last and told you to call me when you woke up. I was worried when you didn't call. I'm sorry, this is the first time I've been free enough to call you. I didn't get a text. You didn't text me. Why were you too busy to call? I decided not to ask him about the French girl. I did text you. Geez. I thought you changed your mind about me, Edward moaned. Never. I thought you changed your mind about me. I was wide awake now. I'm so sorry, Bella. The execs from TRP insisted I fly to LA to redo some of the tracks in their studio. I've been recording and going to meetings nonstop. I was going crazy not talking to you, but I didn't want to wake you up. As soon as I got done having dinner with the guys up here, I decided I didn't care if you were asleep. I had to talk to you. You finished dinner at 2 a.m. Yeah, these people are ridiculous. I hate it here. How long do you have to stay? I asked. Suddenly I was worried he wouldn't be back in Seattle when I got there. I'm leaving tomorrow, or today I guess. These guys are pretty happy with my music. One of them, Arrow, asked me where I got my inspiration. And I showed him our picture. He said he wants to meet you and nicknamed you his money maker. Oh my, I laughed. Bella. Edward Said sounding more serious. I'm glad we're okay. I would never change my mind about you. I know, I answered, and I really did. I missed you. I missed you more, Edward Said with a laugh. Impossible. Probable, he argued, and I could still hear the smile in his voice. Then he yawned. You're tired. Do you want me to sing you to sleep? No thank you. Jerk. I giggled. You love me though. I love you though, I agreed. I don't love Verizon anymore. I can't believe I didn't get your text. I should have just woken you up. I'm sorry. I should have called. I'm sorrier. Okay. Enough of that. We talked until Edward couldn't keep his eyes open, and I had to get ready for work. He promised to call before I went to bed that night, and I promised to think about him all day long. After that conversation, I felt really stupid for doubting him yet again and really happy that we talked. He wasn't going anywhere. My heart was starting to finally convince my head of that fact. I kept my end of the bargain and thought about him all day. My mood was considerably better. And my editor said he was starting to think I was bipolar. I didn't mind. Nothing could get me down today. Then I got an email from Jasper. Swan. Is Edward there with you again? Al. Ice was starting to accept the fact that the two of you were together, and then Edward took off telling her he had something to take care of out of town. She is mad because he didn't tell her where he was going. I tried to tell her that he's an adult and can do what he wants, but of course she didn't want to hear that. I don't care if he's there, but if you could maybe influence him to call Alice and try to talk to her. I think it would help. I just have to believe there's a better way for them to communicate. Love, Jasper. Oh no. I didn't want Alice to get any madder. I hadn't even thought about the fact that he'd left home again. This time it wasn't my fault. I didn't want Alice blaming me. Jasper. He's not here, but I will talk to him and try to get him to talk to the whole family about what he's doing. It's nothing bad. I promise. I'm sorry for all the stress. Hang in there. Swan. Edward was going to have to tell his family about his music. They needed to know, especially if he will be able to do it as a sustainable career. I wished everything could just be simple. There was really no reason for anyone to be mad at anyone else or for Edward to hide things from his family. That night when my phone rang, I was ready for this intervention. Bella, you'll never believe what happened today, he blurted out as soon as I answered the phone. What happened? They've been kind of schmoozing me since I got here. Taking me to nice restaurants and even them flying me here was strange, but now I know why. I met with the president of the company today and it turns out that TPR is a subsidiary of Twirecords. They offered me a recording contract. They had this whole proposal lined out about how I would be the next big thing. I guess my style is popular right now, and they went on and on about my look being just right. Oh my gosh. Wow. I was trying to sound excited, but all I could see was my entire life crumbling before my eyes. Edward couldn't work from anywhere as a rock star. He would have tours and shows and thousands of screaming girls wanting to rip his clothes off. We wouldn't have the quiet life with the Cullens I'd imagined. I even started to hear Char's words from the restaurant. A girl like me didn't fit with a superstar. Bella, what's wrong? You sound upset. Nothing. Sorry. Congratulations, honey, I'm so happy for you. And I was happy for him. I just felt sorry for myself. Thanks. Of course I told them no. I was just relieved they were still interested in my songs. Wait. You told them no. Edward, why? I told you I don't want to do that. I've met some of these artists. They have no life of their own. They are pretty much ruled by their agents and their tour schedules. They have no privacy. Most of them don't even enjoy their own music. It's not for me. I'm happy with my life the way it is. Plus, I mean if we, or if I have a family of my own, that's not what I want for them. Oh, I was pretty sure he just mentioned having kids with me. Please let me have heard him right. Please. Tell me what's wrong. Do you think I should have done it? Edward sounded less confident. No. I mean it's huge. It's a great opportunity, but you're right, you would have to give up so much. If it's not worth it to you, then you just follow your instincts. You really think it's okay, what I did? Please be honest. If you think I should do it, I'm sure I can still change my mind. I mean, I'm relieved. It's selfish of me not to want you to do it. I practically whispered. Bella. No, I don't want it. I have this vision of my future, of us, and that kind of life isn't it. His words made me feel so good that even my pinky toe was smiling. Then I remembered. Intervention. Edward, can I say something else? I mean, I don't want to upset you or anything, but I think it would really help matters. Especially with Alice, if you told your family about your songs. I just think it would ease some of the tension. I've been thinking about that too, he sighed. Wish you could be here with me when I did it. Maybe we can wait until you move. I don't think it can wait. I think the sooner the better. Please, Edward, do it for me. I tried to sound as sweet and pathetic as possible. If they aren't happy for you, then screw 'em all. I'm proud enough for all of them. You're right. It doesn't really matter as much what they think now that I have you. So you'll tell them. My mom asked me to come to a family lunch tomorrow actually. I'll see everyone then. Perfect. I'll be there with you in spirit. You can even put me on speakerphone if you want, Well, as long as you don't tell anyone. I'm scared of Alice. We fell into easy conversation after that, and Edward saw eat more of the mushy stuff that made my skin tingle. Before we hung up, I reminded him that I would be there in only a few short days and to call me as soon as he was finished telling his family. I didn't tell him I was secretly worried about it. I'd spent so much time convincing Edward everything would be fine that I wouldn't know how to fix it if it wasn't. Backdraft. I was practically dying from excitement during the flight. As soon as they turned off the seatbelt sign, I started checking the time and making calculations. Trying to figure out how much longer. I was pretty sure I was driving the man next to me crazy, but I learned my lesson last time. No more talking to strangers on airplanes. Edward's talk with his family about his music had gone even better than I expected. They were all upset that he'd hidden this from them. There was a good deal of arguing and hurt feelings. But they were thrilled for him at the same time. I think he got a little choked up when he told me about his mom telling him how proud she was, and that she believed he'd finally found his path. Alec. He said she'd always known he'd do something significant. Carlisle was happy for his son, but still wanted him to get a degree. Edward understood his position. Jacob and Emmett just wanted to know if Edward had met anyone famous yet. Edward seemed almost like a new person after their talk. He was optimistic and bright, and when he talked about his family, the usual hint of disappointment was missing from his voice. I was so happy for him. He and Alice had talked one-on-one afterwards, and once he apologized to her, she quickly offered him a full pardon for not telling her about his songwriting. And for deciding to fall in love with her best friend. Apparently it was now all my fault, and Alice was not ready to forgive me yet. I was getting angrier with every day that passed. Who was Alice to be mad at me for being happy? She was the one who was always telling me to find true love, that I was selling myself short by settling. I was so frustrated with her that I didn't even feel guilty for coming to Seattle without telling her. In fact, I almost hoped I ran into her so I could snub her like she'd been snubbing me. Attention passengers, we are now beginning our descent. It's overcast and 60 degrees at SeaTac today. Thank you for flying with us, and I hope you enjoy your stay. I accidentally squealed a little bit. Getting to Seattle meant I was one step closer to getting to Edward. I was going to have to rent a car to drive to my interview. Edward wanted to pick me up, but Tanya's dad had scheduled a meeting for Edward and a music agent around the same time. When I got off the plane, I took a deep breath of Washington air. It was strange being in this airport without running and screaming to Alice. I swallowed down the bit of pain and regret that had made its way to the surface, held my head high, and tried to focus on the interview I was on my way to. I had just enough time to drive to Tacoma, check into my hotel, change clothes, and then go to Tribune offices. I made my way past the baggage claim toward the rental car counters. I almost missed the man standing off to the side with a sign that said, Lois Lane. I noticed the sign before I saw his face, but as soon as my eyes snapped up to meet his green eyes, I broke out into a smile so big that it hurt and practically dove at him as soon as I was close enough. He was wearing nice jeans without holes and a ribbed navy shirt. I might not have noticed him if he'd brushed his hair or worn shoes that went with the outfit. What are you doing here? You said you weren't coming. I squealed between kisses. I couldn't stand the idea of not seeing you as soon as possible. I played the diva card and told them I'd be a couple of hours late, Edward answered. Oh, thank you. Thank you. You're here. I'm so happy you're here. I squeezed his neck so tight I probably cut off his flow of oxygen, but I couldn't help it. The emptiness I'd been suffering from ever since he left was finally filled. Did you check a bag? He asked Ed as he finally tried unsuccessfully to peel me off of him. No, they make you pay now. I just left my shampoo at home. Let's go then. My car is in the lot. I held on to him planning to never let go again as he carried my bags to the parking lot. I was surprised when he walked up to dark gray Volvo instead of his truck. What's this? Where's your truck? I bought a new car. He shrugged. I figured it was time I got something more responsible and grown up. I love that truck, I whined. I mean, this is nice too, and station wagon is definitely responsible. It's not a station wagon. It's a hatchback. Whatever you want to call it, dear. I patted him on the arm reassuringly. He growled, and reached over to tickle me. I screeched and fell into him. He caught me and leaned me up against the car before moving in to kiss me roughly. His lips tugged on mine and the kiss was full of heat and fire and passion. One of his hands rested dangerously low on my waist as his other held the back of my neck. I pulled on his hair and tried to force our bodies closer. Mommy, is that lady okay? Is he hurting her? I heard a little girl's voice. Come on, sweetie, some people just don't have any self-control. Mommy. The kid started to cry. I pushed Edward off of me, and gave the mom an apologetic look. She just glared at me as she held one hand over her daughter's eyes. Edward wasn't fazed and snuck back to sucking on my neck. Stop it. Not here. And be careful, I'm on my way to a job interview. He sighed and rested his head on my shoulder. I just missed you. I don't ever want to be apart from you. I need to have you with me, always. His words had me breathing heavy again. I needed to get in the car and fast, before I got us arrested. We've got all weekend. Let's go. I can't be late for my interview. Too much depends on it. Edward nodded and reached over to open my door. He loaded my bags into the trunk and climbed in the driver's side. He held my hand on my lap as he drove out of the terminal and headed south toward Tacoma. I really needed to focus on my interview, but the man next to me was making it very hard to concentrate on anything but him. As he drove, Edward updated me on the music and his family. He told me about how Lucy was starting to say mama and could sit up on her own now. I just sat back and listened to him. He was so animated and carefree. He was so beautiful. I loved seeing him like this. I had to believe that some of his contentment came from the fact that I was here now. When we got to the hotel, Edward still couldn't keep his hands off me. I liked it, but I was starting to get worried about my interview. I needed to be prepared and fully clothed. After we checked in and got to the room, I had to put the brakes on. Edward, no. I noticed him giving me that loo from across the room. I took a few steps back from him. I have to get ready for my interview. I only have an hour. It doesn't have to take long, he breathed. No. Please, I whimpered. You need to go to your meeting. After a lot of self-control and a few promises of making it up to him later, I finally pushed Edward out the door. Our future depended on this interview. I couldn't afford to mess it up. Edward had arranged for there to be a car for me to use waiting at the hotel. I drove to the office of the Tribune, parked the car, and made my way inside. I had a file folder ready to present to the editor. It had some of my clips, letters of recommendations, my paper resume, and my resume presentation I'd put together on a CD. I'd worked hard for this moment, and I was confident that I was qualified for this job. I walked into the elevator with my head held high and hit the button for the 34th floor. Just as the doors were closing, I saw an older man with a cane rushing toward the elevator. I realized he was trying to make it on. Instead of hitting the door open button, for some reason I thought it would be more practical to throw my body in front of the door to keep it from closing. I succeeded and it glided back open. I smiled at the man, proud of my accomplishment, and went to move back out of his way. Unfortunately, my foot wouldn't budge. Excuse me, the man said gruffly. I'm trying, I said, pulling on my foot. My heel seems to be stuck in the floor. He looked down to see that my heel was indeed stuck in the small space between the floor and the elevator. My, I hope it doesn't take off with you jammed in there like that. You might lose a limb. He bent down and studied the situation more closely. I couldn't believe my luck. I was going to miss out on this job trying to do a good deed. I'm so sorry. I'm holding you up. I grabbed my knee and started trying to use my arms to pull on my leg. The man bent down further and grabbed onto my shoe trying to help me pull. With my luck he'd end up pulling a muscle and sue me. You know, he looked up at me. This might be easier if you took your foot out of the shoe. You're a genius. I slipped my foot out, and the And we both bent down at the same time to try to dislodge my shoe. We ended up knocking heads. Ouch. He stood up and rubbed the spot on his crown. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I gave my shoe one more hard tug, and it came loose. Unfortunately, I went flying backwards and ended up sitting on the elevator floor. The man calmly walked on after me and offered his hand to help me up. Thank you. I gushed, but unable to hide my embarrassment. I seem to have a knack for ending up in uncomfortable situations. He stared at me in bewilderment, before he broke out laughing. This was no ordinary laugh. This was a Santa Claus laugh. And I had a strange desire to hug him. I laughed with him for a moment. The man pulled out a hanky and wiped his eyes. My darling, that was the hardest I've laughed in 30 years. Oh, well, I hope that's a good thing. I smiled at him. It is, he said. Oh, I'm sorry. What floor are you going to? I should have asked sooner. I gestured toward the buttons. Same as you, 34, he answered. There was a lull in the conversation, and I didn't do well with silence, especially when I was nervous. I see the handle of your cane is made from olive wood. Is it from overseas? No, they sell olive wood carvings in the Middle East. Oh yes, actually it is. Before he had time to say more, the elevator beeped and the door opened on our floor. Watch your step, he winked at me. He went separate directions before I had a chance to hug him and thank him for helping out of my predicament. He really seemed like a lovely person, and I would have enjoyed talking to him more, but I had a job to land. The receptionist showed me into the conference room, where the editor soon joined me. He introduced himself, and then announced that we were waiting on Marcus Voltaire, who would be sitting in on my interview. Part of the job would be covering overseas deployments of the local troops, and Marcus Voltaire liked to keep an eye on anything related to the war. If I was hired, I would be working side by side with him. I was a little nervous before that, but as soon as he told me Marcus Voltaire was coming, I became petrified. I'd done my research. He was a big shot. He was basically who I dreamed of becoming someday. And I wasn't sure how to act in the presence of such greatness. Edward. I chanted his name over and over in my mind, reminding myself of why I needed to ace interview. It would make him happy, and I desperately wanted him to be happy. I made small talk with the editor and tried to appear calm. Oh, there he is. The editor stood and motioned behind me toward the door. I stood and turned as I took a deep breath and plastered on the best smile I could muster. My eyes grew wide as I was greeted by Santa himself. We both froze and stared at each other for a few seconds. You, he said and smiled. You, I giggled back. You two know each other? The editor asked. We've not been formally introduced, Marcus answered. I'm Marcus Voltaire, and you must be Bella Swan. We shook hands. I enjoyed your piece on the police officer who retired. I'm glad you sent that with your resume. Thank you, I beamed. The interview went on, and I talked about my desire to write stories that mattered to people. We discussed how human interest pieces would be different than the beat I'd covered before, and how I was confident I could adapt my style. Conversation flowed easily when I started talking about my Middle East experience and my studies. I was pretty sure they were impressed, and a few times I was even amazed that the confident woman I was telling about was me. Marcus started telling me funny stories about Drive Cullen, and he seemed elated when I told him she was in town, and I would be meeting her for dinner. I didn't have the heart to tell him she called him a grumpy old cook. He didn't seem grumpy at all. The interview ended, and the editor asked me to wait while he got a couple of forms for me to fill out. I told Marcus goodbye and was glad I got tea. Oh, spend more time with the man with the warm laugh and olive wood cane. I must say, I've never seen Marcus respond that way before in an interview, the editor said when he brought back the papers. He's usually disinterested and aloof. But you did a fine job of engaging him. Yes, we met in the elevator. He seems like a lovely man. Lovely, yes, that's exactly how I would describe him, he scoffed. If you can win over Marcus Voltaire, I'm positive you would make a fine human interest reporter. The job is more about the people than anything else, and you have to be able to get them to talk to you. It's almost an art form. I know it's not exactly what you've been working toward, but I think maybe it's a good fit for you. Really? Wow. Thank you. I would really love to be a part of the team here. Give me a few days. I have another candidate to interview this afternoon and phone calls to make. I'll let you know either way as soon as I can. I told the editor goodbye, filled out the paperwork, and practically skipped out of the building. Who knew I would be lucky enough to fall on my butt in front of a newspaper legend? I tried to call Edward, but he didn't answer. He must have still been in his meeting. I didn't feel like sitting at the hotel, and I knew Edward's meeting was north of Seattle, so I headed his direction. I saw a sign for Edmonds and remembered that was the area I went with Edward for lunch by the water. There were cute little shops down there and, of course, coffee shops. Seattle was probably the only place on earth with espresso bars built into their homeless shelters. I couldn't wait to tell Edward. I wanted to tell someone. I wanted so desperately to talk to Alice, but that wasn't possible right now. I was mad at her, and she was mad at me, but most of all I missed her. I loved Edward. But I loved Alice first. Our friendship was too important to let anything come between us. I had this feeling that everything was going to be okay though. I knew if it was possible for Bella Swan to find earth-shattering, all-consuming passionate love, anything could happen. I had a new faith that things would work out, that I would be happy, and that life was going to be good from now on. As if the sky wanted to rain on my happy parade, tiny droplets splashed on my face as I window shopped. I wasn't prepared with an umbrella or rain jacket, so I quickly ducked into a store trying to avoid getting soaked. It was a cute little dress shop, and a friendly-looking girl asked me if I needed any help. No, I'm just looking, thank you, I answered. Are you having a good day? She asked. Oh yes. I get to see my boyfriend soon, and I just had a job interview. I'm hoping to move here from Boston to be near him and his family. Wow. The girl laughed. And here I was just trying to be polite. Oh right. Sorry, I laughed. I'll try and keep the oversharing to a minimum. I'm just going to look around until the rain lets up. Well, good luck with the new job. She smiled at me politely. I thanked her and started looking through the racks. This was exactly the kind of place Alice would have brought me to. In fact, I was pretty sure I'd seen her wear some of the outfits I was looking at. I put back a green party dress and moved over to some tops. I heard the bell ring up front and then, hey, Bree. Anything new this week? What were the chances really? Did I just have the absolute worst luck in the world? Or was the universe conspiring against me? Out of the entire city, how did I end up in the same 10 feet as Alice? This was a nightmare. I squatted on the ground behind a rack of clothes. Alice was near the door chatting with the sales lady. This was stupid. I shouldn't have to hide from her. She was my best friend, and she shouldn't be putting me in this position. The sight of her though made my heart ache for her. I really did miss her. It would not the time for sentiment though. If she found me, it would be disastrous. She might actually hurt me or at the very least cause a scene. I put my hands on the floor in front of me so I could peek under the rack at her. I only had a good view of her shoes. Ooh, designerness. Oh no. She was coming toward me. I crawled around the rack as she got closer. And then, as soon as I didn't think she could see me, I sprinted for the dressing rooms. I jumped inside and closed the curtain. I sat down on the small bench, prepared to wait her out. My phone rang. It was Edward. Hello. I whispered. Why are you whispering? Edward whispered back. I ran into Alice at a store in Edmonds. I'm hiding in the store's dressing room. I can't let her see me. Oh no. Just try and stay calm and quiet. I could tell he was trying not to laugh. This is not a joke. This is awful, I whispered sharply. Miss, can I get you any other sizes? The saleswoman asked from outside the dressing room. Hold on, I whispered into the phone. No thank you. I'm good, I said to the woman. She's visiting her boyfriend from out of town, I heard the woman say. Oh, so you've got a long-distance relationship. Those can be so hard, Alice said in my direction. I did it for a short time, and it drove me crazy. I couldn't stand to be away from my Jasper. Yes, yes, it very hard. For some reason I chose to speak in my best Russian accent trying to disguise my voice. How long have you been together? Oh no. Alice was actually trying to have a conversation with me. We be loving each other maybe 2 months, or rather Svetlana answered. I'm so happy for you. Do you need help finding something to wear? I'm really good at putting outfits together. No, this dress is very well thank you. Come on, let us see it, the sales lady said. I wondered what she must be thinking about my new accent. No, I don't want to be not modest. I very well thank you. You sure I can't help you with something? You've been in there a long time, the saleswoman said. Shoot. This wasn't working. I needed to think of something fast. Oh no, I very well. I had how you say wardrobe malfunction. All is better now. Thank God I heard Lucy start to cry. Oh dear, it smells like someone's made a mess in her pants, Alice sighed. I'm going to go to the car and change her. I'll stop back by in a bit. Okay, Alice. See you soon, the saleswoman said. That's when I remembered Edward was on the phone. Edward, she's gone. I've got to get out of here. Oh no, what if she sees me on the street? What am I going to do? What store are you at? Faye's Boutique, I think. Why? Come out the front door in 30 seconds, I'll pick you up. What? You're here. I whispered into the phone. I started driving that way as soon as you told me you were in Edmonds. I wasn't far from there. Now come on, I'm just up the street. Okay. Bye. Miss, are you sure I can't help you? No, I'm fine. I pushed the curtain back and stepped out of the dressing room. The saleswoman looked at me bewildered, and it must have seemed strange that I'd lost my accent and didn't have any clothes with me in the dressing room. Oh well. Thanks. Bye, I said to her as I walked quickly out the front door. Just as I did, Edward's station wagoner hatchback screeched to a halt in front of me. He reached over and swung my door open. Get in, he said. I jumped in, and he sped off down the street, getting to the highway and away from Alice quickly. I'll send someone back for the car. Are you okay? He asked. I could tell he was trying not to laugh. Yes. Okay. I talk like Russian immigrant while I hide in dressing room from Alice, I said in my bad Russian accent. Edward released a booming laugh that made my heart sing. I was pumped up from the adrenaline of my possible near-death experience and high from being close to Edward again. It was one of those perfect moments in the middle of life. I stopped to make a mental note to come back to this exact second the next time it rained or I felt lonely. How was your interview? Edward asked, reaching over with one hand to rub my shoulder while he held the steering wheel with his other. He laughed even harder as I told him about how I met Marcus Voltaire, and he seemed so excited and alive when I told him my interview went well. He was already telling me about areas we could live in where the commute wouldn't be too bad. As we talked and laughed and smiled, I felt like we were unstoppable. Nothing could ruin this. I knew everything would work out, even Alice. His was just too right for anything to go wrong. Pyro. Once we got back to the hotel, Edward and I spent some time getting reacquainted with each other before we went to meet his grandma. Our connectio felt so consuming it overpowered my senses. There was a part of us that still didn't make sense to me. How could my life be so completely different in such a short amount of time? As I started to get up to get ready, Edward pulled me back to him on the bed. I meant it when I said I don't ever want to be apart from you again. He ran his thumb across my cheek. Well, there are times I'm going to have to go to the bathroom or work. I replied, running my hand up his arm. Edward sighed. I'm being sincere here. I need to be with you. Nothing is right when I'm not. It's like I can't breathe. His intensity made me nervous. Part of it thrilled me, but at the same time, I didn't know how to handle it. It was times like this it bothered him if I turned it into a joke, but I had trouble responding otherwise. It wasn't that I didn't feel it. I did. I understood what he meant. I just didn't know how to express myself. Anything I said would have still sounded more trivial than I felt. I simply looked him in the eyes and nodded. Yes, in agreement. After a few more moments of bliss, I had to get ready. I didn't want to meet up with his grandma looking like I'd just well. Edward got dressed, too, and soon we were headed toward the restaurant to see Dr. Cullen. I was nervous. This was the first time we'd been with a member of his family as a couple, and it was kind of a trial run for the real thing. When we got to the restaurant, she was already inside and seated. I hadn't seen her since Alice's wedding, and I was a little surprised how much older she looked. Her skin had aged, and she seemed to have shrunk a little bit. She looked up and waved us over. I dropped Edward's hand and practically sprinted to her. I forgot I was trying to impress her. All I could think about was giving her a hug. Dr. Cullen. I squealed and wrapped my hands around her neck. I've missed you so much. You look beautiful. Oh, child, let me go right now. I need to get a better look at you. She held my shoulders at arm's length and studied me. Breathtaking. Now where's my baby? She dropped her hands and looked behind me searching for Edward. Hi, Gran, he said and smiled at her. She opened her arms, and he gave her a hug and a kiss on the cheek. You're all grown up, Grandma gushed and tried unsuccessfully to brush his hair down and away from his face. My, you look handsome. I swear Edward blushed at her assessment of him. I've missed you so much. How was Yemen? Oh, same old thing. Grandma waved him off, and we were all seated at the table. Edward automatically scooted his chair closer to mine and wrapped his arm around my back. Grandma kept looking between the two of us and smiling. I must say, you're quite the good-looking couple. I don't think I could have picked two people better suited for each other. And Edward, I can't believe it. You've been smiling for almost 3 minutes now, she said after checking her watch. Edward laughed loudly and winked at his grandma. It's all because of Bella. I don't think I've stopped smiling for weeks, actually. Now it was my turn to blush. And how about you, dear? Grandma turned to me. Does my Edward make you happy? He's okay. I shrugged and gave her a look that told her I was teasing. Edward reached down and tickled my side for revenge, and I squirmed in my chair. I'm happy. I'm happy. I laughed. We were eating some sort of elegant Asian cuisine, and we let Grandma order for all of us. Edward explained that she was the unquestioned expert at ethnic cuisine. As we waited for our food, I told her about my interview. Marcus Voltaire went on and on about you, Drive. Cullen, oh, I mean Grandma. I corrected myself when she gave me a dirty look. He called you a brilliant scholar and said he'd never met anyone like you. Grandma's eyes got big, and I wasn't sure. But I thought she might even be a little embarrassed. I thought it was all very interesting since you told me you didn't care for him much. Well, I think he's a grumpy old man, but I suppose he does have good taste if he said all those things about me. There's a bit of history there, I suppose. I doubt after all these years he even remembers our little rendezvous in North India. It was just before I met your grandfather. Edward. Please, Grandma, I don't want to know, Edward pleaded and covered his eyes. We both laughed at him. The rest of the meal was much the same. Grandma told stories, and we laughed. I loved asking her about her adventures. Edward kept a hold of me the entire dinner and even stole a kiss or two as we listened to Grandma talk. He seemed just as enthralled with her as I was. Which made me love him just a little bit more. His affections weren't limited to me. He complimented his grandma several times and even reached over to squeeze her hand. I think I let out a couple of audible sighs as I was overcome with what a good man was sitting next to me. The entire night had been perfectly wonderful, but I noticed too soon that Grandma was looking tired. Her face paled some, and her speech had slowed. I noticed she kept rubbing her left shoulder. Dr. Cullen, are you okay? I started to grow concerned. Oh sure, it's nothing. I think I just have a little jet lag, she answered. We should go, Edward. I think she needs to get some rest. Edward nodded in agreement and asked the waiter for the bill. He insisted on paying, and I noticed the look of pride on H's face as he handed the waiter his credit card. Grandma looked a little impressed too. We opened our fancy fortune cookies as we waited. I opened mine first. Constant grinding can turn an iron into a needle, I read out loud. In bed. Grandma added. Edward actually snorted, and I blushed. It's so much funnier that way. Grandma shrugged and opened hers. Your emotional currents are flowing powerfully. No, in bed. She read her slip of paper. Wow, that was amazingly accurate, she said with a straight face. I resisted the urge to scream. Your turn, Edward dear. No, Grandma. You turned it into something dirty. And I don't want any part of it. I loved that he seemed so shy all of a sudden. I knew he was anything but shy in bed. Oh, come on, boy. You've got JBF written all over your face. Edward's mouth fell open in shock. What's JBF? I asked. I'll tell you later. Edward Saeed still looked slightly horrified while his grandma giggled. Read it, or I'll tell her now, Grandma challenged Edward. He rolled his eyes and cracked open his fortune cookie. Your persistence and endurance will be rewarded. In bed, Grandma and I said at the same time, and then we all started laughing. This is the most fun I've had since I unearthed that etching from the Second Temple, Grandma said as we stood from the table. She wobbled a little on her feet, and Edward caught her elbow. Are you okay, Grandma? He asked with concern. I noticed again that she wasn't looking quite right. I think I just need some fresh air, she said. By the time we made it outside, she was breathing heavier. Grandma, what's wrong? Think we'd better go to the hospital. I'm having some chest pain. Edward froze and stared at his grandma. I didn't understand what he was doing. She said she was having chest pains. We needed to move, Edward. I said forcefully. Go get the car. He snapped out of his stupor, nodded, and ran toward the lot. I rubbed Grandma on the back as we waited. Can you breathe okay? I asked. I feel like I'm having trouble getting a breath, she admitted. I'm sure it's nothing. I've probably just overdone it today. You're probably right. I tried to reassure her. Edward screeched to a stop on the street in front of us and jumped out to open the back door for his grandma. She sat down inside, and I ran around and climbed in back beside her. Do you want me to call Dad? He's not on call tonight. Edward asked his grandma. Oh goodness, no, I don't want him to worry, she answered. Edward sped to the hospital, and I did my best not to pay attention to how many near-death experiences we had because of his crazy driving. He pulled up to the emergency room doors and ran inside to tell the staff we were there. He obviously knew someone, because he was out a second later with a wheelchair for Grandma, and once we were inside, they took her directly back to see a doctor. They made the two of us stay in the waiting room. Do you think she's okay? Edward asked nervously. It's not like her to go to the hospital. She wouldn't have come here unless it's really bad. She hates hospitals and avoids doctors at all costs. I found that ironic since her son was a doctor. I don't know. I'm sure she'll be okay. I wrapped my arm around him trying to comfort him. And he leaned into me. For the first time, he felt young to me. He seemed so vulnerable, and I could tell he was really worried about Grandma. I was too. It seemed like forever before a doctor finally came out. He explained that Grandma was having a heart attack, and that they weren't sure how severe it was yet, but their preliminary tests were concerning. He suggested we call the rest of the family in. Edward froze again and looked so helpless. Can we go in? I asked. There's only room for one of you in the ICU. We're going to move her to the cath lab in a few minutes, the doctor answered. Edward, you go, and I'll call your parents. He squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. She's going to be fine, but she doesn't need to be alone right now. I urged him forward, and he finally relinquished his grasp and followed the doctor. Crap. Did I just offer to call his family? His family didn't even know I was in town. It was an emergency, and I'm not sure Edward needed to think about anything else right now. I had the Cullens' home number in my phone from when Alice lived with them. I found it, took a deep breath, and hit talk. Hello. Man answered. Hi, is this Carlyle? Yes. Who is this? It's Bella Swan. Edward's Alice's friend, Bella. I swallowed hard and tried to focus on what needed to be done. I know who you are, Bella. It's nice to hear from you. I could tell by his voice he was confused as to why I would be calling. Yes, sir. It's about Drive. Cullen. I mean Grandma. Well, your mom actually. You see, she's in the hospital, and the doctor said she's having a heart attack. We need you to come down here right away. Bella. My mother is here in Seattle. Are you feeling okay? Carlyle turned on his doctor voice. Oh no. He thought I was delusional. Oh yes, sir. I'm actually in Seattle too. We're in Bellevue at the emergency room. Wait. My mother is there. She's having a heart attack. Who is the doctor? I told him the information he needed to know. And he promised they were on their way. He sounded so distraught, nothing like the ever calm Carlyle Cullen I was used to. Oh, and Bella, you'll call Alice, right? Oh, sir. He thanked me and hung up in a hurry. There was no need to put it off. I dialed Alice's number. It rang twice and then went to voicemail like she'd just hit ignore. I dialed again, and it went straight to voicemail. Really, Alice? This was getting old. I pulled up Jasper's number and hit talk. He answered right away. Hello, he whispered. Let me guess, you're hiding from Alice, who is ignoring my calls. Well, I wouldn't say I'm hiding. I'm just talking quietly in the bathroom. Whatever. Listen, I'm in Seattle with Edward. We went out to dinner with their grandma, and I think she's having a heart attack. We're at the hospital in Bellevue. Alice needs to come to the hospital now. I've already talked to Carlyle, and he and Esme are on their way here. You also need to tell Alice to quit acting like a baby. This is not the time for it. Okay. We're coming. Is she going to be okay? He asked. I don't know. My voice cracked. We hung up, and I was struck with the weight of what was happening. Jasper and I been close to her before we'd even ever heard of Alice or Edward. I knew how much she meant to her grandchildren. They idolized her. She had to be okay. She just had to. I was nervous to see everyone, but I wasn't the concern right now. Edward came out a few minutes later, and all the color was gone from his face. I'd never seen him look so awful. What happened? I panicked. They're prepping her for surgery. Something about her not being hemodynamically stable. They want to take her back as soon as my dad gets here, he said, grabbing my hand and pulling me to sit down with him in the chairs lining the waiting room. I've never seen her look so weak. How did we go from laughing at our fortune cookies to this? It's going to be okay, I promised him and rested my head on his shoulder. I'm glad you're with me, he said and kissed my head. Me too. A few minutes later, Carlyle and Esme came rushing in the door. Carlyle nodded toward the two of us and went directly back to the exam area. Esme walked toward us, and I held my breath as Edward and I stood to greet her. I had no idea what to expect from her. What happened? She asked, reaching out to hug Edward. He embraced her and immediately so. Used my hand again as soon as he let her go. Edward told her what happened after dinner, and she finally looked over to me when he finished. Bella, this is a nice surprise. She reached out her arms and enveloped me in a tight hug. I'm so happy to see you. Phew. Hello, Esme. The sliding door to the hospital opened again, and we turned when heard a baby crying. Alice ran in frantically, and Jasper walked behind her carrying Lucy. She rushed over to us, and once again I felt nauseous. I was surprised when she ran straight for me and practically knocked me over with the force of her hug. Is she okay? Is Grandma going to be okay? She'll be okay, Alice. She has to be. I had no idea what to make of Alice's reaction, but I was glad she didn't smack me. She was still holding on, so I looked over our shoulder at Jasper, who just shrugged at me. We were soon joined by Emmett and Jacob. Jacob looked worried, but he kept staring at me. It was kind of freaking me out. Carlyle walked back into the waiting room and up to the family. Alice let go, and all eyes were trained on him. The usual calm confidence was missing from his face. He wore the same expression as Edward, hurt and scared. They are taking her back to surgery. Kids, I want each of you to go back there and tell her how much she means to you. I want her to go in feeling loved and remembering who she's got waiting for her out here. Dward was squeezing my hand so hard it hurt again. Jasper, you and Bella need to stay out here with Lucy. I'm sure you understand, Carlyle said. We both nodded in acceptance. Carlyle started leading the family toward the exam rooms. Edward leaned down and kissed me softly, and I could feel my face redden at the show of affection in front of his family. I settled down next to Jasper and Lucy in the waiting room. Hi, friend, I said sheepishly. I'm quite surprised to see you here, Swan. Yeah, well, I'm only in town for a couple of days for a job interview at the Tribune, I admitted. Really? And you thought it was a good idea to not tell us you were coming? Well, it's not like I haven't tried to call her, Jasper. There's basically nothing else I can do to mend the fence but wait for her. Jasper sighed. I know. She's not acting like herself. I'm sorry, Bella. You don't deserve the way she's treated you. One minute she seems like she's ready to accept it all, and the next she's strategizing how to get back at you and Edward. Maybe she's possessed. What did she do when you told her I was here? You don't want to know, Jasper laughed. Come on, tell me, I nudged him. Well, I made her sit down. Then I told her very calmly that you had just called and that you were in town having dinner with Grandma. She interrupted me, started throwing her hands up in the air screaming, and talking about why. Oh, you to trying to steal everyone she loves away from her. I groaned. But then I forced her to be quiet and listen while I told her about Grandma. I think maybe she's finally snapped out of this insanity. It's too bad it took something like this to remind her what's really important. I hope so. I hope Grandma's okay. Grandma. Jasper looked at me out of the corner of his eye. She made me call her that. I defended myself. I know. Believe me, I know. Sometimes I still call her Drive. Cullen just to make her snarky. Remember that time she took us to that crazy bar in Cairo? You and I were totally enthralled with her stories. You kept looking at me like you couldn't believe the things coming out of her mouth, Jasper remembered. Well, it's not every day you hear an old lady telling you about her torrid affair with the Prince of Monaco. I said. I was impressed with the way she negotiated with that guy in the bar. Up to 60 camels, Jasper chuckled. 60 is a lot compared to the 12 he offered for you at first. I'm worth way more than 60 camels, and you know you never would have let her sell me. She was just being ridiculous that time. I rolled my eyes. We sat and told old stories about Drive. Cullen while we waited. I'm pretty sure we both teared up a couple of times as we worried about what was going to happen. The family came back looking pained. Emmett had his arm around Esme, who was wiping tears from her cheeks. Alice was dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, and then there was Edward. He looked so hurt, so vulnerable. My heart ached seeing him like this. He didn't seem like the same man who was always confident and always knew the right thing to say to fix every stressful situation. He looked afraid. I knew this was ripping him apart. He and Alice were both so close to their grandma. I didn't even want to think about what it would do to them to lose her. I stood and walked straight for Edward, wrapping my arms around him. He hugged me back tightly and buried his face in my hair. It's going to be okay. I'm here, I whispered. I felt him nod, and when I looked up, the entire family was staring at us. Esme and Rosalie had small smiles on their faces, Jacob looked furious, Carlyle and Emmett looked proud. And Alice just looked bewildered. I let go of Edward and moved to Alice, pulling her to me for a hug. I love you, Alice. I'm sorry for how I handled things, but you're still my best friend. And I love you so much. I'm sorry, Bella. I'm so sorry. She started crying and then I started crying, and pretty soon we were just one big blubbering mess. How's Grandma? I asked her. Is she going to be okay? She's in surgery right now. They had to do something called a coronary artery bypass graft. They said it was a risky procedure, but if she makes it through the surgery she should be okay. Alice looked up at me and started wiping off my cheek with her thumb. You've got mascara. I've told you a million times to wear waterproof. I know. My head was swimming with a million different emotions. Edward moved to my side and wrapped an arm around my waist. Thank you, Alice. It means a lot to me to see the two of you talking, he said to his sister. Like I could stay mad at her. I've invested way too much into helping her dress better, Alice teased. Well, I guess now all we can do is wait, Edward saw Ed glancing at his watch. They said it would be several hours. Alice and I both yawned. I glanced over at Jasper, who winked at me and smiled. This wasn't the way I expected to make up with Alice, but I was glad we were going to be okay after all. Melt. I thought it would be awkward waiting in the hospital with all of Edward's family, especially considering the circumstances, but it wasn't. After a few minutes of tense dread, the mood lightened. All right, kids, sitting around crying isn't going to help Grandma. We need to be thinking positive thoughts, Esme commanded using her confident mom voice. So, Eddie, you want to introduce us to your girlfriend? Emmett said, further breaking the heaviness in the room. Edward rolled his eyes, and I swear he blushed a little. It was cute. It usually seemed like nothing fazed him. Everyone, this is my girlfriend, Bella. She is in town for a job interview with the Tribune, and we're hoping she will be moving here in the next few weeks. Edward raised my hand to his lips and kissed it when he finished speaking. There was a collective awe from all the women in the room. Welcome to the family, Bella. I guess you were already family, but we're glad you make our son and our daughter so happy, Carlyle said graciously. I noticed Jacob roll his eyes. And I had to fight back the giggles that threatened to spill over. It wasn't really the time for giggling, but was he serious? Thank you, I said, feeling completely self-conscious. Come here, sweetheart. Edward has been so different lately, and he gives you all the credit. I can't thank you enough, Esme gushed as she pulled me into another hug and kissed my cheek. I wanted to find a hole to crawl into. All the attention was making me uncomfortable. Just remember, I saw her first. Alice stomped her foot and pretended to pout. Everyone laughed, but Edward and I shared a quick glance. We both knew it was a warning we needed to take seriously. So how long are you in town for, Bella? Emmett asked. Maybe we can all get together and play Wii. I mean, if Grandma's okay. His face fell. I'm here till Monday morning. And I don't think we really have anything planned. Do we, Edward? He shifted uncomfortably and stared at the floor. No, not really. I knew that look. There was something he wasn't saying. Alice. This is perfect. Bella can go with us on Saturday to that sale at Northgate, Rosalie said. Oh, we can make it like a girl's day out, Alice chirped. They both looked at me. And I nodded my head and shrugged my shoulders. I heard Edward sigh behind me. As soon as we were settled back into the chairs, I leaned over to Edward and asked, "What's the matter? You look like you're pouting." "It's nothing. I just wanted you to myself this weekend. We only have a little bit of time, and I don't want to share you with the rest of your fan club." "Ha, fan club. I promise we'll have plenty of time together. These circumstances couldn't be helped." I squeezed his arm. I wanted nothing more than to spend every moment we had left holed up in my hotel room, but now that Alice knew I was here, there was no way that was going to happen. While we were waiting, my cell phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but it was local, so I answered. "Hello. Bella Swan. Please," a man said. "This is she." "Hello, Bella. It's Marcus Voltaire. I'm sorry to call so late, but I wanted to let you know that you've got the job. The boss didn't want me to tell you yet, something about making an official offer tomorrow. But I didn't want to keep you waiting." "Really? Oh, thank you. That's wonderful news." Edward looked at me and raised his eyebrows curiously. I motioned for him to hold on. I'll be on vacation for the next couple of weeks, but I want you ready to start as soon as I get back." "Oh, of course. Okay." Wow, I couldn't believe this was really happening. "Now, how was your dinner with Drive? Cullen, are you still with her by any chance? Emmett Was ended up having to take her to the hospital. She was having chest pains. Is she okay?" he asked frantically. "I don't know. She's in surgery right now. We're just waiting for more news. What hospital? His tone was strange. Overly concerned. Desperate. Bellevue. Okay. Thank you, Bella. We'll talk soon. Who was it? Edward asked when I hung up. It was Marcus Voltaire. I got the job. I squealed and jumped at him. You got the job, Edward repeated, grabbed my face, and kissed me hard. I start in 2 weeks. I'm moving here. Bella. Alice SCR. Eached and dove at me, knocking me and Edward back in our seats. You're going to live here. You're going to live here. This is perfect. I swear that girl was giving me whiplash. It's just like we always dreamed. I said, forgetting about the last 2 weeks and going with the moment. We had some sort of awkward group hug with the 3 of us, and then the rest of the family congratulated me. Edward and Alice started arguing about where I should look for a condo or apartment, and I almost forgot we were sitting around waiting to find out if Edward's grandma was going to be okay. The planning was short when the doctor walked in, still wearing his surgery scrubs. How is she? Carlisle jumped up. She made it through the surgery. She is doing well, and I believe she'll recover. There was a collective whoosh as we all let out the breath we'd been holding. She'll recover if you can get her to slow down. Her body can't handle the way she pushes herself. It's time for her to give herself a break. That's easier said than done. Esme frowned. I'm afraid it's not optional, the doctor said. Carlisle and the doctor spoke privately for a few minutes, before Carlisle came back to talk to all of us. EY are going to try and move her to a regular room in the morning. You can come back then, but for now everyone needs to go home and rest. I'll stay with her tonight. Is she going to be okay, Dad? Aunt want to leave unless we know she's going to be okay, Edward asked. The worry returned to his face. I think so, son. We just have to convince her to take care of herself. We all said our goodbyes and started walking toward the parking lot with the exception of Carlisle. Bella, wait, Alice called after me. Where are you staying? She asked. At a hotel near downtown. That's silly. Why don't you come stay with us? You can stay in Edward's room this time, I suppose. I didn't know what to do. There was no way in the world I wanted to stay with Edward at Alice's, but I felt like I was walking on thin ice with her. Thanks, Alice. But I want the privacy. Edward winked at his sister. Ew. Alice groaned. This is definitely going to take some getting used to. I just shrugged as Edward pulled me toward the car. I'll call you tomorrow. Alice yelled my direction. Okay. I shouted back. We climbed into Edward's car, and as soon as his door was shut, he rested his elbows on the steering wheel and fisted his hair like he wanted to pull it out. Edward, what's the matter? Are you okay? Please, say something. I'm justy don't know. First Grandma, and then his is exactly why I didn't want Alice to know you were here. As if tonight wasn't enough of a nightmare, now we are going to be bombarded with invitations from my family over the next few days. I only want to be with you. Wow. Edward was a little possessive. It was kind of hot. Hey, look at me. I grabbed his wrist. I'm moving here. We're going to be together from now on. As for this weekend, we'll do what we have to do to stay in everyone's good graces and spend the rest of the time alone or in bed. I saw the corner of his mouth turn upwards when he heard my plans. Okay. He sighed like he was still being put out. As long as we spend plenty of time in bed. I guess I can share you a little bit. I promise. We'll get started as soon as you get us back to the hotel. At that, he started the car and drove us quickly back toward the hotel. It had been a stressful evening. And I could see that he was still extremely tense. Luckily, I had some ideas about how to distract him. Bella. Edward saw Ed running his fingers up and down my arm as we lie in bed later. Edward. When you move here, where do you want to live? He seemed hesitant. I don't really care. You know the area better than I do. Where do you want to live? His face broke into a huge grin. What? I asked, confused by his behavior. I wasn't sure you were planning to live in the same place. I mean, we kind of talked about it, but that was more hypothetical, and now it's really happening. Oh. Well, I guess I just assumed. You want to, right? I mean, if it's too soon, I understand. I just thought. Shish, Bella, of course I want to. He kissed me and then smiled against my lips. Everything is working out. I know. Don't jinx it. I kissed him back. He talked too much. The next morning, Edward asked if I wanted to go look at condos after we visited Grandma. We got ready, and I typed a quick letter of resignation to my boss in Boston, giving my notice. I would send it just as soon as I got the call with the official offer. We were walking out the door when my phone rang. It was Alice. I just wanted to see if you wanted to go have lunch, and maybe hit that sale Rosalie was talking about, Alice said. Oh, that sounds fun, but I can't. Edward and I are going to look at a few condos he found online. Fine, Alice said flatly. Crap, she was mad again. Maybe we could go to coffee later and catch up. I tried, hoping that would satisfy her. I guess, she sighed. I made plans to meet Alice that afternoon. And it frustrated me that Edward didn't seem happy about it. Did the two of them not understand how hard it was for someone like me to make everyone unhappy? They were putting me in an impossible position. It was difficult seeing Ganma looking so frail, but she seemed in good enough spirits. I noticed a large bouquet of roses. She admitted they were from Marcus Voltaire, and smiled. Marcus Voltaire was after more than just my talent for reporting. That sly dog. Edward and I had fun looking at the condos. In some ways, it felt like we were pretending or playing house. I was imagining what we would look like in those places, and it all seemed so surreal. We found one we particularly liked. It was actually an old house turned into 3 residences. It was older but updated and not far from downtown Seattle. The commute wouldn't be ideal, but it was such a great place, it would be worth it. Edward was so excited about everything. It made me happy to see him so giddy. He begged me blow off Alice and hit IKEA and Pottery Barn to look at new furniture, but I successfully told him no. Then he wanted to come with me to coffee with Alice, but I had to tell him no. He won. Ted to compromise and wait for me in the parking lot. He said he just wanted to be near me. I told him he was being ridiculous, and he pouted until I made out with him for at least half an hour. Alice needed to realize that I was giving up time with Superhands to make her happy. She owed me. On the way there, I got a call from editor of the Tribune. He made the official offer, and I graciously accepted. He was going to fax the paperwork to the hotel for me to sign. I hung up, called Edward, and had him send the email to my editor in Boston. Perfect. Everything was perfect. I got to the coffee shop, and Alice was already waiting for me at a table near the back. She waved me over. Hi, dearie, how are you? I'm good. I think we found a place near downtown that we both like. You're going to live together? Alice asked, looking less than thrilled. Oh yes, I thought you knew. No, I sure didn't. Her lips formed a tight line, like I'd offended her again. Alice, please. We've got to make this work. I love you both. Really? Is that why you went behind my back the whole time you were here visiting me? Jake told me he found you two kissing. She folded her arms over her chest, gave me a look that dared me to challenge her. The only things I did with Edward were the things you arranged, like babysit Lucy and go to that movie with him. I didn't do anything behind your back. I didn't know I was coming here to fight with you. So you're saying Jacob lied? Well, no, but that just sort of happened. I didn't mean for this to happen. I'm sorry. I was pleading with her now. I just needed her to be okay with this. It wouldn't be right until she was okay with it. It just really hurt me that you did all this without telling me, Alice said more calmly, looking defeated. I know. Believe me, it was tearing me up. I just didn't know what to do. I knew you would be upset, and I wanted to tell you. This whole experience is so new for me. I've never been in love before. You think you're in love? She asked flatly, the hardness returning. Yes. Why was she looking at me like that? It was like I didn't even know the person sitting across the table from me. She was acting like I was her enemy. I just don't think you've really thought this through. I mean, he's Edward. He's kind of flighty and emo. He's never lived on his own before. He's never even been in a serious relationship before. I don't think you should put all your eggs in his basket. I disagree. Now I was starting to get angry. How dare she say those things about Edward? And did you even think about what this is going to do to us? They've been best friends for forever and you're just willing to throw that all away to get into my brother's pants. I mean, I thought you were better than that. It was such a departure from the night before. I wasn't sure if she'd just been putting on an act in front of her family. She was being borderline cruel. Alice, listen to yourself. You're not exactly being a great friend to me either. I started to raise my voice. What? You didn't expect me to be angry that you used me to get to my brother. All those years I thought you were joking, and really you were just biding your time. Stop. Just stop right now. What do you want from me? Do you want me to choose between you and Edward? Is the only thing that will make you happy is for us to break up? Not that I was really willing to do that. Alice just looked at me and shrugged her shoulders. No way. No. I leaned forward ready to make her deal with this. I refuse to let you give me that ultimatum. You are my best friend, and I should have told you, but you should be happy for me. I was talking way too loud for a coffee shop now, and I was squeezing my hands into fists on top of the table. My whole life I have wanted one thing more than anything else, to fall in love. I was there, and I was happy for you when it happened to you. I listened to you tell me for years that my time would come. I let you convince me that I deserved to be happy. If it wasn't for your voice in my head, I never would have had the guts to love someone like Edward. I never would have been able to believe he could love me, if wasn't for you telling me for so long that I was worth it. She tried to interrupt, but I just kept ranting. You can just stop right now. This is as much your fault as it is mine or Edward's. I refuse to choose between you. You will be happy for me. And you will be my best friend, and you will support me in this because I need you. I need you now maybe more than ever. Alice sat there with her mouth hanging open. I took a deep breath and continued. Don't you see? It's our silly little dream. It's what we always talked about, but that doesn't work without you, so it's time for you to get on board. I am not taking no for an answer. Alice stared at me in shock. I had never talked to her like that before. I had never talked to anyone like that before for that matter. I was usually too worried about hurting someone's feelings or making someone mad at me. I was pretty shocked myself. I noticed her bottom lip start to tremble and then her nose started to twitch. Her eyes got moist, and before I knew it the dam broke. Alice started sobbing into her hands. And everyone in the coffee shop that hadn't been eavesdropping already turned to stare at us. The sight of Alice's tears triggered my own, and soon we were both holding each other and crying again. I hate my life, Alice said. You what? I hate my life. I'm not important to anyone anymore, she cried. Alice, don't be silly. You're important to everyone. What about Lucy? No, I'm not, and Lucy has to love me. You were all I had left, and now you don't even need me anymore. Of course I need you. I might have a relationship with your brother, but that can just make the two of us closer too. We'll really be like family now. I don't need another sister though. I need a best friend. Alice, I will always be your friend first, and Edward's girlfriend second. Do you understand me? Okay. She nodded her head yes. I'm sorry I've been acting like some sort of crazy bitch. I'm going to try and be happy for you. Crazy beach, I corrected her. We hugged and dried our eyes. For tea. He second time in 2 days Alice chastised me for my mascara choice. Then it was just us again. Things between us were out in the open now, and they felt right. He's really good for me, Alice. I know. That's the worst part. I should have seen this sooner. I can't believe it wasn't my idea. I knew that would bother you, I laughed. Just think of it this way. I introduced you to Jasper, and you did introduce me to Edward. We're even now. You make it sound so permanent, Alice said nicer this time. I think it is. That's the plan anyway. You guys are moving fast. I mean, I'm not saying anything. I'm just making an observation. I guess we are, but it feels right. You and Jasper were practically joined at the hip right after he moved here. Oh, and remember, you thought I'd be mad, and I wasn't. So you can't be mad at me. You owe me a pass. I'm not mad, Alice sighed. I was never mad. I gave her a dirty look. I wasn't. I was just psycho. I finished her sentence for her. Hey. She slapped me on the arm, and we both laughed. A little bit later, I was back at the hotel with Edward. I found him lying on the bed reading, and I climbed in beside him, wrapping my arm across his torso and resting my head on his chest. I think Alice is going to be okay, I said. I knew she would be. Edward sighed and put down his book. Did you guys talk? Yes, and I even yelled at her. Wow, I thought I was the only person with enough guts to yell at Alice. I know. She was shocked. I was shocked for that matter, but I think I needed to get her attention. Oh, I need to check and see if my boss emailed me back. I started to sit up. But Edward's strong arms held me against him. No way. You promised we could stay in bed. He breathed into my ear, sending shivers all over my body. I can bring my laptop to bed, I compromised, and he let me go. I saw him rake over me with his eyes as I got up, and I moved faster, anxious to move on to more exciting things. I flipped my computer open and checked my email. Edward. My boss said not to worry about giving a notice, just to finish up the stories I've already started on, and he'll reassign the rest. I've got them done already. I just need to send them in. You mean you don't have to go back to Boston? Edward smiled. I just need to pack up my stuff and put my house on the market, but I don't have to go back on Monday now. I'm going with you. You're going to need help, he said eagerly. You don't have to. I can get some friends to help. He had a lot going on too. Yes, I do. I told you, I don't want to be away from you. Okay. I surrendered easily. Okay. He affirmed with a huge smile. I put up the laptop and started unbuttoning Edward's shirt, when my phone beeped. Leave us alone. Edward groaned. I grabbed it and saw that I had a new text. It was from Alice. Al. Ice wants to know if we can come over for dinner tomorrow night, I told Edward. He groaned, while I texted back, yes. Space heater. On Saturday, Edward and I took it easy. We called the airline, changed my ticket to the next Friday and bought him a one-way ticket on the same flight. Then we took a picnic over to the park at Green Lake near where we would hopefully be living. When we got done eating, Edward got out his guitar and started playing me some of the songs he'd written. It was a sunny day and relatively warm outside, so there were quite a few people milling around the park. He started strumming and making those eyes at me that got me all tingly. I leaned back on my hands and enjoyed the song I knew was about me. More than you know. Soft hands make me feel what I haven't felt for too long. More than you see. Your eyes are what I need. I need to have you here with me. It was a couple of minutes before I happened to glance to my right and saw 3 teenage girls standing a few feet away, watching us. Strike that. They weren't watching us. They were staring at Edward and listening to him sing. I nodded in their direction so Edward would look. He glanced over at them and smiled. The 3 of them started giggling. I couldn't decide if I wanted to giggle with them or stab them for ogling my boyfriend. Edward finished the song, and they started cheering. Thanks, ladies, he nodded at them. And they answered with a collective sigh. Smooth, Romeo, I smiled at him. Have to keep the fans happy. He shrugged, and started strumming on his guitar again. The groupies moved even closer, and I reached out, grabbed Edward's arm, and stopped him. Do you think you could put it away for now? Jealous? He asked with a smirk. No, not jealous. I just don't like the way they're looking at you, and I don't want to have to hurt them. Fair enough. He conceded and put the guitar back in the case. I proceeded to get up and scoot closer to him on my knees. When I could reach him, I put my hands down in front of me and leaned in to kiss him. I heard one of the girls start coughing, and I just kept going. I wanted to make it clear that this singer was not for sale. What's gotten into you? Edward laughed when I finally sat back. Just enjoying what's mine, I said nonchalantly. By all means, carry on then, he replied, moving to where I was this time, leaning us back, and kissing me deeply. Every touch, every look, every kiss still felt so right. It's not like there hadn't been a few bumps along the way, but everything seemed to come naturally now. I wondered if it would always feel like this. Passionate and simple. My mom always lectured me about how serious relationships were hard and a lot of work, and they were doomed to failure from the start. Her pessimism clouded my view, and I was sure that perception had affected some of Edward and my earlier interactions, but this didn't feel like a lot of work. It's not that every minute was easy. Every minute with Edward was just worth it. I'd rather be with him picking up his dirty clothes and closing his cabinet doors than without him. The truth was, I didn't even mind doing those things. I wanted to do things for him, because I loved him. I was willing to do whatever it took to make his life easier or better. The best part was that it wasn't one-sided. He seemed intent on taking care of me. The little things like opening my car door or refusing to let me carry anything made me feel so cherished. The forecast had been sunny, but clouds started gathering. I hope you don't hate it here. It literally rains pretty much every day 11 months out of the year. Edward sighed as we started packing up our things. We could already smell the rain in the air. I'm sure it'll be an adjustment, but I'll be fine. I like to think I'm adaptable. Besides, you can stand under my umbrella ella, I sang. Really? Edward looked at me like I was causing him pain. Jerk. I laughed and slapped him in the arm. He winced and acted like I'd bruised him. He obviously had no appreciation for my musical talent. We decided to take the books we were reading and wait out the rain in a coffee shop near the park. We got drinks and sat across from each other, entangling our legs under the table as we read. Every now and then I would glance up over my book at Edward, and as if he could feel my stare, he would meet my gaze and smile at me. I don't want to go to Alice and Jasper's, Edward moaned out of nowhere and put down his book. What brought that on? I asked. I like this. I like being with you. I hate the idea of us being scrutinized. In the way Alice keeps pissing on you to remind me that you were her friend first. I promise that if Alice pisses on me we're leaving. I made a disgusted face. Very funny. Maybe we should live in New York. You'd hate it there. And so would I. We don't have to stay late. We'll just eat dinner and then leave. You know, you need to accept that I'm friends with Alice just like she needs to accept that I'm in love with you. I need to have room for both of you in my life. You seem so logical and articulate about this. What happened to the Bella who has crazy schemes and gets hyped up about things? He asked, grabbing my hand, giving me one of his flirty smiles. That's when I'm trying to figure out things for myself. This is us talking about your issue, and it's much easier figuring out someone else. I do appreciate your insights. I'll try to be on my best behavior, as long as she didn't invite Jake. God, I wanted to punch him last night for the way he was looking at you. I know. Ew. I miss Jake, the harmless, adorable little brother. He's anything but harmless. Edward rolled his eyes. Well, she didn't mention him coming. I'm sure it's just us. We stopped at the hospital to check on Grandma. She was giggling on the phone. And I heard her say something about the deplorable food in the Congo. When she saw us, she looked startled and embarrassed and quickly ended her conversation. My suspicions about who she was talking to, but decided to let it go. We chatted with her for a while. She would be coming home the next day or so, and I was relieved that she was going to be okay. Edward reminded me that the real battle of getting her to slow down was still ahead of us. I didn't think it would be as hard as everyone else did. Luckily, when we got to Alice and Jasper's, there was no Jacob in sight. Alice greeted us at the door, and of course she looked perfect and had a gourmet meal ready for us. Where's Lucy? Edward asked as soon as we walked in the door, and neither Alice or Jasper were holding her. I took her to Mom's so we could have a nice dinner. It's our first chance to do anything with either of you as part of a couple, Alice answered. Oh, that was nice of you. said and shot Edward a glance telling him to be nice, and he smiled at Alice and gave her a hug. Alice handed out glasses of wine, and we all sat in the living room for a few minutes and ate from the fancy cheese plate she put out. Things were a bit awkward. I wasn't sure how to act as Edward's girlfriend around her. Edward wasn't helping things. He practically sat on my lap, he was so close to me. He had his arm around me and kept rubbing my hip with this thumb. "Are you guys coming over after church for lunch tomorrow?" Alice asked. "No, we're going to look at some things for the condo. Bella already has a lot of stuff. But some of it could use updating," Edward told her. "But we have lunch every Sunday," Alice complained, looking frustrated. "The whole family will be here. And they will get to come to all the lunches they could ever want to as soon as Bella moves here," Jasper interrupted. "Speaking of that, tell us about your new job." I told them all about my new position, including the work I would get to do with the local troops. "Wow, that's different from what you wanted, but it sounds great for you, Swan," Jasper said enthusiastically. "Yeah, I can't believe you're finally going to live here. I mean, we always talked about it, but you never even considered it until you hooked up with Edward," Alice said sarcastically. I took a deep breath, and I could feel Edward tense. "Alice, I saw our Ted applying for this job before I had any idea that Edward and I would become anything more than acquaintances. Your grandma actually recommended it to me. I pursued it because it would mean being closer to you and your family." "Oh." Alice sighed and looked away. I thought we were past this." Hopefully she was just teasing and wasn't back on the bus to crazy. "I'm going to get dinner on the table," Alice announced. "I'll help you," I said and started to stand, but Edward pulled me to him and kissed me on the forehead first. I smiled at him and stood up to find Alice watching our movements. She wasn't smiling or frowning. She just looked like she was trying to figure us out. "So when do I get to see this condo?" Alice asked once we were in the kitchen. "Well, we haven't even officially rented it yet. We're going to call the leasing agent back on Monday to do the paperwork." "Wait, aren't you leaving tomorrow night? I forgot to tell you. I moved my ticket back to Friday. When I gave my notice, my boss said I didn't have to come back. I'll just email my last assignments and go clean out my desk." I was obviously expendable. Alice's face broke into a smile. "So you're just packing up and moving here then? This is so exciting." She squealed and threw her arms around me. "Oh, Lucy and I can fly back to Boston with you and help you pack." Actually, Edward is already going. He bought his plane ticket this morning," I said hesitantly. Alice's shoulders slumped a little and the elation drained from her face. "I guess the two of you can handle it then. It's just different than how I thought it would happen, you know." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I thought someday you would move out here to be close to me, and I would be a part of it all. At the very least, I would help you find a place and pick out furniture." "I know what you mean, Alice, and I'm moving here to be close to you too. I'm sorry this is upsetting you, I just want everyone to be happy." Alice nodded, but she still looked a little hurt. I understood what she felt. I just didn't see a way I could easily fix it. As much as I did want to make everyone happy, I needed to do these things with Edward. Over the last month, things had changed from being about me to being about us. I wasn't the only factor in these decisions. They belong to him too. "It's different than what we planned, but it's still going to be good, Alice. I promise." She gave me an obligatory smile and told the boys to come to the table for dinner. "So what are you doing for the holidays, Swan? It's coming up. Will you be here with us this year?" Jasper asked. "Oh well, I was planning to go to Phoenix for Christmas, and I guess I'll be here for Thanksgiving. I usually spend it with friends in Boston." I smiled over at Edward. "You're not going to go with her at Christmas, are you, Edward?" Alice looked at her brother. "We haven't talked about it, but I want to." "Bella." He gave me one of those looks he knew I couldn't resist. "Edward, my mom is crazy. Seriously, I can't put you through that." I waved him off. "Please say you'll come. Please say you'll come. I met her once. Bella's mom is a little nuts," Alice agreed. "Yep. Jasper nodded in agreement. Well, I'm not spending Christmas without you. I can handle your mom. Edward sat up straighter like he'd made up his mind. Okay. I smiled at him and leaned over to kiss him quickly. We looked at each other smiling like mad. And I could feel Alice getting annoyed across the table. Well, that's just great. Christmas is ruined, Alice grumbled. Allie, I'm sure we can still find a way to celebrate with them. Actually, my mom would love to have us in Texas this year. Maybe we can go out there and just postpone the Cullen Christmas till after everyone gets back. We'll only be gone a couple of days. You know I can only handle small doses. I added, hoping she wouldn't freak out. Fine, but we're flying first class, Alice huffed. Only the best for you. Jasper grabbed Alice's face in his hands, looked her in the eyes, and then kissed her in a way that made me and Edward both feel like we were intruding. When he let her go, Alice beamed at him and started eating with the smile still on her face. What was it? Why? These men and their superpowers over us. We were so screwed. We ate, and Jasper saved the day steering the conversation away from anything controversial. We ended up talking about Egypt and some the funny things that happened to us there. Like the time Alice and I were walking down the street and a crazy lady walked up to me and started assaulting me with her half-eaten cucumber. Our friend ship had grown and changed over the years, but it was still fun to think back to the early days. Edward laughed, and I could tell he was thinking about all the years he didn't know me but wanted to. I still couldn't believe it. I had never imagined myself as the object of anyone's fantasy. I smiled at him, and he smiled back, and my heart started beating faster. We were getting lost in each other's eyes. And I wanted to start singing a Debbie Gibson song, but Edward was probably 3 when it was popular. He probably wouldn't understand how cool it was that I was an electric youth. Jasper cleared his throat. Are you two lovebirds ready for dessert? He asked, smiling at us. We both looked away from each other a little embarrassed. I knew it hadn't been very long, but I loved how he could till get me all flustered with just a glance. I hoped that would never change. Okay. I swallowed hard and looked back at Edward, who was looking at me like he'd just won a prize. Stupid boy knew I had it bad. Jasper had just gotten up to start dishing out Alice's cobbler when someone knocked on the door. Jasper stopped and went to answer it. We were all surprised to see Jacob follow Jasper back into the room holding hands with a very pretty girl. She had brown hair, darker than mine, and striking eyes. I can't believe you guys didn't invite me to the party, Jacob said, reaching to grab a bite of food off the table and popped it in his mouth. Well, it was kind of double date type thing, brother, Alice said, looking at Jacob suspiciously. Perfect. This is my girlfriend, Allison, he said, proudly pulling her closer into view. Hi. She smiled and waved at all of us. Hi, Edward, she said specifically to him. You have a girlfriend? Alice asked. Everyone looked equally shocked. Well, she's been after me for a while. And I finally gave in to her seduction, Jacob said, wrapping an arm around her, while she laughed. Allison, I didn't know you knew my brother. Edward's expression was impossible for even me to read. He started coming into the coffee shop more often after you disappeared, Allison said. Wait, you guys know each other? Alice asked. We worked together at the coffee shop, and Edward was giving me guitar lessons. Before he left, Allison explained. Everyone misses you, Edward. Your groupies finally stopped showing up on Thursday nights. Oh, I'll come back when I have time. Edward seemed embarrassed. I wasn't even aware he had these groupies. There used to be so many girls there on the nights he sang that we had to turn people away, Allison explained. So, do you guys go to school together? Alice asked like she was still trying to figure this whole thing out. No, I'm in college. We just know each other through the coffee shop, Allison answered. What is it with you guys, and older women? Alice rolled her eyes. And I looked up just in time to see Jacob wink at me. Oh no, not again. Why don't we take the dessert to the living room so everyone can sit down? Jasper suggested, changing the subject. I was going to have to buy him a really nice Christmas present. We all moved into the other room. Jasper and Alice sat on the love seat, while Edward and I sat on the couch. That left the oversized chair and another seat on the couch empty. Instead of separating, Jacob pulled Allison down on his lap in the chair. She squealed while he started kissing her neck and running his hands up and down her legs. It was disgusting. Jake, please, Alice groaned. Allison shot straight up looking embarrassed. I felt sorry for her. She was way too pretty for Jacob. Not that he was ugly, he was just gross. Edward and I were sitting close enough that our legs were touching as we ate our cobbler, and I noticed Jacob kept looking at me and down at our legs with a strange expression on his face. Then he would go back to groping Allison, who looked a little uncomfortable with it. Once I accidentally caught Jacob's eye when I looked over at him, and he ran his hand up Allison's leg while wagging his eyebrows at me. I scooted closer to Edward and tried my best to ignore him. So, Allison, did you have your recital? How did your song turn out? Edward asked. It was so good. Thank you so much. I couldn't have done it without you. She gushed. I didn't like the way Jacob was looking at me, and I sure didn't like the way she was looking at Edward. I told you you'd be great, Edward smiled back at her. I put my plate on the coffee table and rested my arm on his back. Mine. What kind of recital was this? Alice inquired. Oh, I'm majoring in vocal performance at school, and Edward helped me work on a song for my fall recital. He actually wrote the music for it, and I did the lyrics. It was fantastic, Edward. I wish you could have been there. I'm sorry I missed it, he said genuinely. Do you have your guitar here? Why don't you guys play it for us now? Alice suggested. I wanted to punch her. It's in the car. Edward sighed and stood up, digging his keys out of his pocket. You up for it? He asked Allison. Of course. Her whole face lit up. I wanted to punch Alice and then her. I smiled like I thought this was a perfect idea. Edward quickly got his guitar and started tuning it. Allison stood next to him and smiled brightly in his direction as he played. She totally wanted him. It was obvious. I glanced over at Jacob to see if he was irritated, but of course he was just staring at me. I wanted to punch him too. Or better yet, kick him in the balls. Allison started singing, and her voice was like freaking Susan Boyle but with a perfect face and perfect hair and a perfect body. I stifled the growl that was working its way up my throat. Edward's fingers glided over the strings effortlessly as he watched her sing. Finally, as if sensing my need for him, he looked at me and smiled. I took a deep breath and relaxed. He was her teacher. He helped her with her song, but he loved me. They did look great performing together. Edward always looked great when he performed. He was masterful on stage the few times I'd seen him. And even today at the park he had those girls rapt attention after just a few notes. People really responded to his playing and his voice. He was brilliant. He had freaking groupies. I sighed, knowing I was the head groupie now. A little while later, the guitar was put away, and we were all settled in to watch a movie. Somehow we ended up with me sitting in the corner of the couch and Edward resting his head on my chest. I lazily played with his hair, and I was pretty sure he'd be asleep by the time the movie was over. Every once in a while I heard some slobbery sounds coming from across the room. I was glad it was dark enough that I couldn't be sure if it was Jacob and Allison or Jasper and Alice making out. I really did not need to see either. As I messed with Edward's hair, I thought back to him playing with Allison earlier. They had music in common. She was prettier than me. She was closer to his age, and she obviously found Edward appealing. Why in the world had he chosen to love me? Was his delusion of me being some goddess from his teenage years really so strong that he couldn't see anyone else? He said he'd fallen for the real me, and I was glad, because living up to the other vision he'd created would be impossible. When the movie ended, Jasper tuned a light on, and from the looks of their disheveled hair, it had definitely been Jacob and Allison making all the noise. We'd better go. Edward sighed and stood up. Can I talk to you for a second? I asked Edward. He looked at me quizzically as I grabbed his hand, and he followed me into the kitchen. I think I want to have breakfast in the morning with Alice before she goes to church. Is that okay with you? No, Edward groaned. Would you stop being such a baby? I said and pinched his side where I knew he was ticklish. You will still be asleep. But I need you there with me, or I'll get cold. He made a pouty face that made me want to start taking off my clothes. How in the world did he do that? Please. I rolled my eyes. Alice. I called out and walked back towards the living room. Could we have breakfast in the morning? I think we need more girl time. Is that okay, honey? Alice asked Jasper with a huge smile on her face. Sure. I'll get Lucy ready if you'll pick out her clothes, Jasper agreed. Edward sighed. I reached my arm behind him and goosed him. He shut up. This is great, Alice beamed. It was worth getting up early and making Edward cold if it made her smile like that. We finalized our plans, and I took Grumpy home to keep him warm. Smoke gets in your eyes. Edward was on the stage, singing and playing his guitar. I sat in the front row and cheered right along with all the other screaming girls. Allison was there singing next to him on stage. The song ended. The crowd went wild. Edward was absolutely ecstatic. And then he got that look in his eye. I knew that look. I waved frantically hoping he could find me in all the chaos. Edward swung his guitar over his back and marched decidedly over to Allison. While I wondered what was going on, he took her face in his hands and kissed her and kissed her and kissed her. Would he ever stop kissing her? I yelled at him, "What are you doing? I'm right here." But he couldn't hear me over all the screaming fans. I felt like I was falling when my body jerked on the bed, and I opened my eyes. I heard Edward groan, and I tried to calm my breathing so as not to wake him. It was a horrible dream. Awful. The way he looked at her. The way he kissed her. He was mine. I knew this rationally. I had no reason not to be secure in his love. He had proven himself. The dream just seemed surreal. It must have been all the stress of moving and dealing with Alice. I tried to go back to sleep, but I couldn't get the image out of my head. I got up and got in the shower hoping I could wash it all away. Finally I woke Edward up and made him kiss me just once to make sure he was still mine. He was. It was still before noon, so Edward easily fell back asleep. I took his car and went to meet Alice at a restaurant. I could feel the fact that I hadn't gotten enough rest weighing on my body, and I was starting to get a headache. I walked in. Oh, the quaint little cafe Alice had told me to meet her at and found my friend sitting near the back already dressed for church. I met her smile as I walked toward her, and all the tension that had been hovering over us lately seemed to be absent. I was glad. Good morning, deariekins, I said as I sat across from her. Good morning, bestie, she replied. You're looking a bit tired. Late night. She wiggled her eyebrows suggestively. First of all, he's your brother for goodness sake. We are not talking about that. And second of all, no, I just had trouble sleeping, but thank you for pointing out that I look like crap. Whatever. You look fine, Alice assured me. Why couldn't you sleep? You feeling okay? Yes, I just had a bad dream. Edward was performing in a huge concert, and there were thousands of girls. And I was pretty much invisible to him. I decided not to mention dreaming he kissed his younger brother's girlfriend. It made me sound way too pathetic. Well, that doesn't sound so bad for Edward, Alice said. I mean, the concert part, not you being invisible. I guess. I shrugged. It was probably just a combination of him turning down the record deal and then him performing at your house last night. My subconscious was working overtime. The record deal from a few years ago? Alice asked, looking confused. No. He didn't tell you. Oops. I didn't think it was a secret, but I might have been wrong. Tell me what? Alice asked, still seeming innocent and sweet. I was just relieved she wasn't frustrated or defensive. I wanted to keep it that way. The people who bought some of his songs offered him a big record deal. But he turned it down. Why would he do that? Alice's expression started to darken. Shoot. This wasn't working. He said it's not the kind of life he wanted. It would mean Tori Ingen being away from his family and having to compromise his musical integrity or something like that, I tried to explain. I wonder why he didn't mention it to us when he told us about working as a songwriter. Did this happen before or after the two of you got together? Look, I really didn't think it was a secret. It was probably just kind of a non-issue to him. It happened when he was out of town last week for those few days. I guess they put a lot of pressure on him, but he was worried what it would do to our relationship, and he said he didn't want to do anything that would keep us apart from each other for extended amounts of time. I mumbled in an attempt to rescue the conversation. I wasn't sure exactly why, but I felt like I had just opened up a whole new can of worms. Alice closed her eyes, rested her elbows on the table, and started rubbing her temple with her fingers. Alice, what's wrong? I questioned. I just don't know if this is healthy, Bella, and I don't want to say anything that is going to make it harder between us, but can't you see what's happening? I searched my mind for what I was supposed to be seeing. No. Edward is prone to being obsessive about things. He's an all or nothing kind of person. And he goes to extremes. Now that he's decided he loves you, he's gone so extreme about it that he can't see anything else. I don't believe for one second that he doesn't want that recording contract. He's giving up everything for you, and I just think he'll end up resenting you for it once he realizes. No, I mean once you're not so all-consuming anymore. You mean once he's sick of me? I could feel my bottom lip starting to quiver. I was mad. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, but even more, I was terrified that she was right. No, see, I don't know how to say this without hurting you. Alice looked sincerely distraught, which made me feel a little less like I wanted to poke her eyes out. I know you love each other, but this seems like it's happening really fast. Like a whirlwind romance kind of thing. I just worry that once the dust settles, you will both regret making so many huge life-altering choices for someone you don't even really know all that well. But we know each other, I argued. Bella, do you really believe Edward wouldn't want to record and perform his music? He goes and sings his music on a street corner just to get a few people to listen to it. He's been pouting for almost 3 years because my parents wouldn't let him sign with that label when he was still in high school. It's his dream, Bella. Trust me, I think I know my brother better than you do. So what are you saying I should do? You think I should tell him to sign the contract? I asked flatly. Every ounce of joy had drained out of my body. That's just it. He's so extreme, he would never do it. Now that he's made up his mind that it would take him away from you, there is no changing it. I guess it should make you feel good. He put his relationship with you above everything else he's ever wanted. I was having trouble getting in enough air, and tears started pricking my eyes. Alice thought I ruined Edward's life. I loved him. I loved him more than anything I'd ever loved before. I loved him so much that it hurt to love him, because I walked around feeling like my heart would explode any second. It was so full of love for him. I could tell by the look on her face. She thought I was being selfish, but I hadn't asked him to give up anything. I hadn't pushed Hy to take the deal, but he said he didn't want it. I really believed he didn't want it. Bella. No. Alice whimpered and came around to sit on my side of the table. I was crying, and the only thing holding me back from wailing was the fact that we were in a public place. She wrapped an arm around me and pulled me to her. I shook and cried on her shoulder. It was as if I could feel something inside of me ripping apart. What do I do, Alice? I don't know what to do, I cried out after several minutes. It's okay, sweetie. There's nothing you can do. He's made up his mind. I didn't mean to ruin his life. He'd given me everything, and I'd taken it from him without stopping to think about what it cost. I was the most selfish person in the world. I wouldn't say it's ruined. It's okay. She tried to reassure me. I didn't mean to upset you. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. Of course you should have. I started dabbing at my eyes with my napkin. I don't have any cash, but I think I need to go. Do you mind taking care of this? I asked, trying to pull myself together enough to walk out of the restaurant. Of course, but Bella, I think we should talk more. You're really upset, Alice pleaded. No, I'm fine. I just didn't get much sleep, and I'm really emotional right now. I just want to be alone for a little bit. I think. I stood up and pulled on my jacket. Booty Alice looked desperate. Promise you'll call me if you want to talk. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It's fine. I'll call you later. I grabbed my purse off the floor and walked out of the building as quickly as I could. I got outside, and it was pouring rain. It wasn't the light drizzle I'd seen over the last few days, it was a downpour. I sprinted for the car, but I was still soaked by the time I got inside. I closed the door, ripped my coat off as quickly as I could get out of it, and threw my head down on the steering wheel to cry more. Why did he lie to me? He said he didn't want it. God, he probably didn't even realize he wanted it. Alice was right. He was all or nothing. He was so nearsighted when it came to situations like this. He really would hate me in a few years when he realized he had given up his dream. I could tell him. I could convince him to take it, but Alice was right again. He'd already made up his mind it would keep us apart. And he wasn't willing to do that. I could go with him. I could be a full-time groupie and follow him from city to city, but I worried he would still resent me. I didn't have a place in that world. Cleopatra would fit in there, but not Bella Swan. A scream tore through my chest and came out of my mouth as the vision of him kissing Allison played before my eyes again. Why? Why did I let this happen? I knew from the start it was doomed to failure. I knew it would only bring heartache and pain, but he kept convincing me otherwise. Now what was I supposed to do? Live with the guilt of knowing I'd ruined his life forever. I never asked him to have a boyhood crush on me. I never asked for any poems or songs or long kisses. Even after I met him and felt his effect on me, I never hoped. I never thought I never would have wanted this. I never would have let myself want this if he hadn't made me. I didn't pursue him. I didn't drive across the country to ask him on a date. It wasn't my fault. None of it was my fault. Damn it. I screamed and then instantly held my hand over my mouth trying to pull the word back in. I hadn't cussed since 11th grade. Screw it. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. I beat the steering wheel with my fists. I needed Edward. I needed to see him. Edward always made the things I freaked out about seem small and trivial. As soon as I saw his eyes, I would know this wasn't as terrible as it felt right now. I put the car in drive and pulled out of the parking lot. I had just gotten onto the highway when it started raining even harder. It was nearly impossible to see through the rain. The traffic was moving slow, and there were a lot of people on the road for a Sunday afternoon. I reached down to turn up the windshield wipers, but they were already at top speed. I was getting more and more frustrated. I needed to get there. I needed to see him. I couldn't wait any longer. Cars started pulling over to the side of the road because of the rain. This was Seattle. Shouldn't they know how to drive in a little rain here? I couldn't quite make out the lines on the road anymore, but I wasn't about to stop. Even if I had to go 5 miles per hour. I was going to get back to Edward. Okay. Everyone was stopping now, at least that meant less traffic. I inched forward hoping I didn't hit anything and ruin Edward's new station wagon. After a few more minutes, I thought maybe the rain was letting up. I still couldn't see a thing, but it had to be getting better. Then I saw flashing lights ahead and brake lights directly in front of me. It looked like the police or highway patrol had the road completely blocked ahead. No one could get by. I was stuck. I turned on the radio trying to find out what in the world was going on. I found the traffic station. And according to the broadcaster, there was a pileup due to some idiot trying to keep going when visibility was clearly obstructed by the rain. I guess I should have pulled over sooner. But there was at least one other idiot out there. I turned the radio off and listened to the rain hit the roof of the car. Guilt was still clawing at me, and the feeling that I was losing control pounded through my body. I'd messed up. I'd messed everything up for the person I cared about the most. I remembered the words he said, "I'd give it all up for you." He'd meant it. He did it. I should have stopped him then. He shouldn't have told me he didn't want the contract. How could I live with myself knowing I was holding him back? I was driving myself mad thinking about it, so I turned on the radio again and pushed the first preset station. Bittersweet memories are all I'm taking with me. You've got to be kidding me. And I will always love you. I will always love you. I felt resigned tears start falling down my cheeks again. I couldn't listen to this crap. I hit the next station. Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on. Seriously. I pinched myself thinking I must still be having some sort of sick and twisted nightmare, but I didn't wake up. I punched the radio off and stared straight ahead. I sat there and stared and thought for a long time. It took a couple of hours before the rain let up and wreck was cleared. In the end, I knew it came down to one question. Did I love Edward more than I loved myself? He was willing to give up what he wanted for me. And if I really truly loved him like I said I did, I would do the same thing for him. Even if it would hurt me beyond repair, it was the only answer. I'd never won anything really significant or noble. I'd never been a hero. I'd never saved a child or even agreed to send $20 a month so those African kids on TV could go to school. I didn't even spend holidays with my dad when I knew it would mean a lot to him. This was going to be the only thing I'd ever done for anyone else that ever mattered, and it was probably going to kill me. The thought of even whacking up in a world without Edward was unbearable, but this wasn't about what I wanted. This was about what he needed. He needed to follow his dreams. He needed to fly, and he didn't need me holding him back. The rain slowed down, and the traffic finally started to move. By the time I got to the hotel, it was mid-afternoon. I was supposed to be back a couple of hours ago. I was so tired from crying and not sleeping the night before that I could barely see straight. I put myself on autopilot. I refused to let myself feel anything else. I would just do what had to be done. I punched the button on the elevator. I rode up to our floor. I slid the keycard in and out. I opened the door. I took a step inside. A frantic Edward turned to me with relief on his face, crossed the room in a few quick steps, and pulled me into a hug. Oh my God, where have you been? I was so worried something happened to you. You left your cell here, and Alice told me you left the restaurant hours ago. Are you okay? Bella, what's the matter? He brushed my hair back over my shoulder, and ran his hands up and down my arms like he was trying to warm me up. I'm fine. There was a bad wreck, and no one could see in the rain. I didn't sleep well last night. And I'm really tired. Autopilot. I had to stay on autopilot. Edward took my face in his hands, rubbed his thumbs over my cheeks a couple of times, and kissed me. I couldn't help but respond. But with every touch I could feel myself breaking apart piece by piece. Come here. Edward took my hand and led me to the bed. He sat me down and ran his hands over my legs, picking them up off the floor and removing my shoes for me. He moved his hands back up my legs until he reached the button on my jeans. He started to unhook it. When I whimpered, Edward, Shish. I'm just putting you to bed. I can tell you need to rest. You look exhausted. He helped me move my jeans down my legs, and his touch set my skin on fire but burned my soul at the same time. The way he was looking at me and taking care of me was so tender. How could I give this up? I needed to tell him. I needed to do whatever it took to make him go, but I didn't know if I had the strength. One more night, I finally told myself. I would selfishly let myself have one more night with him, and then I would do what I had to do. He pulled the covers back, and I crawled underneath them. He tucked me in, and kissed me softly. Lay with me, I asked, trying to hide how desperate I felt. I just woke up a few hours ago, he replied. Please. Just for a little bit. I begged. Of course. He smiled at me, took off his pants and his shirt, and climbed in beside me, pulling my back up against his chest. I could feel the tears escaping out of my eyes again, but I willed my body to be still, hoping he wouldn't notice. Edward started humming one of my songs to me, and I told myself to forget this day ever happened. I told myself to let myself be cherished just this once. I told myself to hold on to this moment forever. It was completely dark by the time I woke up. I hadn't meant to fall asleep, but I was glad for the reprieve from the hurt. I felt Edward lazily drawing circles on my arm. Did you stay in bed with me that whole time? I asked. Where else would I want to be? He replied. We didn't get anything done today. I know. I thought about saying we could do it later, but I didn't want to lie to him. I was thinking that maybe we could make the third bedroom into a music room for now, until we need it for something else, he suggested. I didn't say anything. Bella. What? What do you think about a music room? I turned around so that I could see his face. I might have been preparing to do something selfless, but right then I did the most selfish thing I possibly could have done. I kissed him. I climbed on top of him, taking off my shirt, and I kissed him again. Edward responded by rolling me onto my back, and I was only satisfied when the desperation in his touches mirrored my own. I needed to feel him one more time. I needed to know again, so that I could always remember what it felt like to be consumed by another person. I needed to show him one more time without words just how much I really did feel for him. So that maybe he would remember this too. Over and over again I took from his love, his devotion, his physical expression of our bond until we were both sweaty and tired and content to be tangled up in each other and just breathe. I love you, he whispered for what I knew would be the last time. Saying it back would only complicate things further, so instead I told the truth, I know. He fell asleep and I got up, put a t-shirt on, sat on the chair next to the bed, and watched him for as long as I could stand it. I finally lay back down in the bed, but I didn't sleep. As sometime early in the morning when he finally stirred and our eyes met. He greeted me with a soft smile. I wanted to give myself one more day. Maybe the morning to pretend that everything was fine, but I couldn't. My sleeping schedule is all messed up now, and I'm starving. I haven't eaten since I got up yesterday. He stretched and then brushed the hair out of my face. I sat up, put my feet on the floor, and looked down. I'd been trying for hours to come up with a plan, a strategy, some way to make this okay, and all I knew was that I had to do whatever it took to get him to go. What's the matter? Edward asked, sitting up on one elbow and putting a hand on my shoulder. I did some thinking. And I'm going to get the job in New York. I want to live in New York, I told him. Why? What made you change your mind? I thought we decided. He moved his hand down my arm and tried to turn me to him, but I didn't want to look at him. This is about me, Edward. Don't you realize what kind of opportunity that is? To work for Newsweek. How could you possibly ask me not to pursue that? Wait, I never asked you if you want to live in New York. We can live in New York. He was trying to stay calm, but I could sense the edge in his voice. I want to go alone. There was silence. I've had fun with you, but there's no way this is going to last. You're too young and inexperienced, and well, you're just not what I need. My face muscles constricted and fought back the urge to cry. I couldn't cry. If I did, he would be able to wear me down. Bella, look at me, Edward said forcefully. I shook my head no, letting my hair fall over my face. He got out of bed and stood in front of me. You don't mean that. You don't mean any of it. Now what's going on? I'm breaking up with you, my voice squeaked. No, you're not. Confusion was written across his face. I am. I said more decidedly. I think you need to go. Why are you doing this? I know you love me. He grabbed my face, forcing me to look at him. No. I pushed his hands away from me. We both got what we wanted. You made it with Cleopatra, and I made it with Alice's brother, just like I always joked about. Joke's over. You need to go. Hurt washed over his face. And I knew I'd hit him where it hurt. I stood up and started putting the rest of his clothes in his bag. You're lying. Tell me why you're lying. He finally raised his voice. I just tossed his shirt at him and kept getting his things ready. He didn't get dressed. He didn't move. Please, please just go, I begged. Nothing you can say will change my mind. It's over. I swallowed the vomit that had made its way up my throat. Bella, please, I don't know what I did. I'm sorry. I love you. We can figure everything out, he begged, and the tears in his eyes broke my heart. It's not you. It's me. I mean, it is you. You're just not enough. I'm sorry. I didn't want to be mean, but he was making me be mean. God, I loved him so much. I just prayed this was worth it. I prayed he became everything he was meant to be. I prayed he'd realize one day that I had given him this gift, and that he could stop hating me. He dropped his gaze from me, took a deep breath, and stomped into the bathroom, shaking the walls as he slammed the door. I didn't think about anything except breathing in and out. If I could just keep breathing, I wouldn't fall apart. A few minutes later, he came out dressed and I held out his bag to hand it to him. He just glared at me, so I set it down on the floor in front of him and looked at the ground. You're going to regret this, Bella. I promise you, you're going to regret this. He picked up his bag off the floor. And when I raised my eyes to his face, there was disgust in his eyes. I know, I whispered as he turned and shut the door behind him. Ashes. Autopilot. I had to stay on autopilot. I couldn't stop to think about the fact that my best friend and lover had just walked out the door forever. I couldn't think about what tomorrow would be like. I couldn't think about anything but the next thing I needed to do. I needed to get out of Seattle. I needed to put as much distance between me and this nightmare as possible. I needed to find a way to forget Edward Cullen ever existed. I tried to ignore the pain in my stomach and the fact that I felt like I was going to throw up any second. I got my cell phone out and then searched online for the number to the airline so I could switch my flight again. After 40 minutes of arguing with someone in India about the fact that the only seat available today would be on the red eye and would cost me $3,000. I gave up and booked a flight for the next day. I sat down on the bed and then slumped back onto a pillow. It smelled like Edward. Maybe $3,000 wasn't that much money. It was still well before noon. Too early to empty the mini bar. I grabbed the room service menu and ordered pancakes, 3 servings of bacon, French toast, and ice cream. At this rate I would spend as much why on junk food as I would have on the plane ticket. It was strange. I was numb. I refused to let myself think or feel too much. I remembered being like this when I was a kid, before my parents divorced. I would hear them fighting downstairs, and at first, it scared me. After a while though, I just went somewhere inside of myself where it didn't bother me anymore. I blocked all the bad stuff out. It wasn't until I was in my early 20s that I felt like I really started to deal with the emotional pain of their divorce. I wondered how long it would take before I could deal with this loss. While I waited for my feast to arrive, I reflected on the fact that I had pretty much changed the entire course of my life over the past 2 months, and now I needed to chart another direction. I was going to have to come up with some sort of survival plan. I had already come to grips with the fact that my life wasn't going to be ideal. I couldn't imagine things ever really being great again, but how they were going to have to be good enough. I got out the hotel stationery and decided to make a list of what I would need to have a life that was good enough. A career. I needed an income and something to do. If things didn't work out with Newsweek, then I would beg my old boss for my job back. I could even ask to start writing more human interest pieces like what I was going to do for the Tribune. Companionship. I didn't want cats. That would just be too cliché. But maybe a nice big dog who thought I was the greatest thing since bacon. Bacon. Where was my breakfast? Friends. If I moved to New York, this would be challenging. Maybe they had online friending. Kind of like online dating. Maybe I could invent that. If not, if I stayed in Boston, I needed to spend more time with my friends from outside of work. Vicky meant well, but I couldn't tolerate Char anymore. Hobby. I'd tried crocheting, knitting, and running. I didn't have an exciting enough life to start scrapbooking. I googled hobbies. Some that stood out to me were video games, entering contests, lock-picking, kites, and puppetry. Pyrotechnics was out, because I hated the smell of smoke. I really did love that rock band game on the Wii. Who knew I was such a skilled drummer? Family. I brainstormed on this one. I could adopt a child. Family didn't have to be traditional. I could always find a couple of other spinsters and set up some type of commune. We could sit on our front porches and throw things like Twizzlers at annoying neighborhood kids. I crumpled up my list and threw it away. Today was not the day to plan for the future. Today was the day to wallow. I was just about to make myself sit down, think about Edward, and cry my guts out when my food arrived. I did later. Some people can't eat when they're upset. I was not one of those people. I greeted the guy with a smile on my face, and even managed to laugh when he made a comment about the ice cream. I sat down and ate as much of it as I could while I watched the news on TV. I checked the weather outside to see if it was raining and considered maybe doing something touristy like bungee jumping off of Mount Rainier or whitewater rafting. On second thought, maybe I could just ride a ferry back and forth for a few hours. My cell phone rang, and my whole body tensed. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I ignored it and took another bite of bacon followed by a bite of ice cream. Sweet and salty. Why isn't there a bacon-flavored ice cream? Ben and Jerry really should get on that. My phone started ringing again and then again and then again. I knew who it was. Hello, Alice. I might as well get it over with. Bella. What happened? Are you okay? Edward just came in and slammed the door to his room. He's got some awful music plays. Aying so loud our whole house is shaking. What is going on? We broke up. I answered flatly. What? Why? I'm sure it was just an argument. You guys can work it out. He's just dramatic. Bella. He didn't mean it. I know he didn't mean it. Alice sounded panicky. Stop it, Alice. You were right. I was holding him back, so I broke up with him. Now he can take the record deal and live his life without the regret. But wait, Bella. That's not what I meant. I wasn't trying to get you to break up with him. It's what you really wanted though, right? I asked already knowing the answer. There was a long silence on the other end. She knew if she said no, that I would know she was lying. She also knew if she said yes, it would make her the biggest jerk in the world. I don't know, she finally sighed. We both know you did, and you got your way. I just want to be left alone for a while. The pain in my stomach was coming back, and I wrapped an arm around myself trying to keep it together. Okay. I can understand that. But you don't need to be alone for too long. How about I come over tomorrow to get you, and we can go shopping for your new place? It will be just like we planned years ago. No, Alice. I'm leaving as soon as I can get on a flight. Oh, well, if you want, Lucy and I could still fly out later in the week and help you pack. I don't know about driving cross country with her, but you could hire a moving company instead of a U-Haul. I'll help you with all the details, I promise. Alice, you don't understand. I'm not moving here. I can't now. I can't be near him. I have to make myself forget all of it. It's the only way I can survive. But what about Thanksgiving and Christmas, and what about me? Her voice quaked. What about you, Alice? I just broke up with the only person I've ever loved, and you're asking what about you? You've got to be kidding. This was what you wanted me to do. You should be happy. I'm sorry if it's not a version of happily ever after for Alice, but it's not mine either. I can't talk to you right now. Maybe sometime later. But right now I can't separate you from Edward in my mind, and it hurts too much. The last words came out in a sob as the mention of his name ripped through my body. But, Bella. Goodbye, Alice, I choked out and hung up the phone. I'd been standing by the window, and I crumpled into a ball on the floor. My chest heaved and my entire body felt like it was imploding from the pain. I struggled to get air into my lungs as something between a scream and a cry broke out of my throat. The tears that I'd meant to start crying came roaring out in a flood, soaking the carpet below me. The pain was so great I wasn't sure I would ever be able to move from this spot again. He was gone. He was gone, and he wasn't going to come back. I'd tasted what my life could be like. And knowing I was never going to have it was too much. I wasn't going to survive. How could I survive without him? It wasn't just a bad LeAnn Rimes song. I really didn't know how I was going to live. My life being good enough wasn't enough anymore. I didn't want it. I felt like a cloud of darkness had descended over me, and I lay on the floor and cried and cried and cried and cried. I cried because of the time when I was 8 and my mom forgot to pick me up from school. I cried because one time after my parents had argued, my dad took me to get ice cream thinking that would fix everything. I cried because Matt Johnson called me a prude dog in ninth grade. I cried because my mom didn't even call me on my birthday last year. I cried because Jasper loved Alice and never even noticed me. I cried because there wouldn't be any more poems or songs or sweet words whispered in my ear. I cried because the arms that anchored me wouldn't be there to hold me anymore. I cried because the only man who ever thought I was worth dating besides Edward liked to wear Star Wars costumes. I cried because my heart wasn't just broken, it was obliterated. I was never going to be okay. I couldn't be. Sometime that day when the sun was starting to set, I heard knocking on the door, but I ignored it. I heard Alice's voice in the hallway, but I didn't care. I just stayed on the floor wishing I could disappear. Wishing the black hole would swallow me up and put me out of my misery. Finally, when the room was completely dark, except for the TV that had been on CNN since breakfast, I climbed onto the bed. Grabbed Edward's pillow, holding onto it like a life preserver, closed my eyes, and waited for the sun to come back out. All night long I dreamed of Edward, and when I woke up in the morning I wanted to dream some more. I wanted to wallow in every sweet and happy memory. Every kiss, every touch, every moment that I treasured. I knew I needed to forget, but I wasn't ready yet. Right now I wanted to pretend and remember and dream that everything was real. There was a part of me that worried about slipping out of reality if I let myself do this. I might lose my mind completely. But I needed to feel a piece of that life again in order to let it go. I closed my eyes and imagined the first time we met at his parents' house. I thought about watching him sing at Alice's wedding rehearsal and how I thought he was precious. I remembered the crazed look on his face as he threw me off the couch after I sat on him. I thought about the time when we picked peaches in the orchard and how he rubbed my back when I had a meltdown. I wondered if he could feel me touching him with my pinky while we watched the movie, or if he saw me blush when we talked while sitting on the tailgate of his truck and he said I inspired him. I remembered the way my heart raced when he called me in Boston and how my nervousness started to disappear as soon as he grabbed my hand. I remembered the kisses, the touches. I remembered all of it, and it was beautiful. I took a deep breath and centered myself around those memories. For today, they would be enough. I would never stop loving Edward. It would be impossible. I would go on, one day at a time, because I loved him, and the goodness he gave me in the time we had together was so much that it could sustain me. It would have to. I only had a few hours left before I needed to check out and leave for the airport. I packed the rest of my things and went to check online and make sure my flight was still on time. I sighed a breath of relief when I saw that it was. My eyes wandered to the bookmark at the top of my screen. Cleo consumes me. As long as I was working on remembering, I might as well look at his blog. Oh no. There were new entries. The first one was every cuss word I'd ever heard and some I hadn't, written in all caps. I closed my eyes. That hurt. I couldn't blame him though. He had a right to hate me. The rest were all written sometime before midnight. 11.1.09. Haiku. Life and death question. The sting of her deception. Can a liar love? Dash 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 dash. I built a castle for my love, my dream, my hope. My rock turned to sand and crumbled with the waves. Dash 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 dash. I beg. I plead. I cry out. Bring her back to me. I scream. I grasp. I call out her name. She won't hear me. She turns her back. She covers her ears. She closes her eyes. I cease to exist. Dash 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 dash. To hold is to be. To love is to exist. One is not without the other. This life of nothing. Not to hold her. Not to see. Not to be. To let go. What had I done? He was in pain, and I wanted to stop it. I wanted to comfort him, but there was nothing to be done, except to put one foot in front of the other, and to let go. I just had to keep reminding myself that this was for him. I was doing this for him. I was hurting him for his own good. That didn't make any sense. He would be happier in the long run, thought right. As I wheeled my suitcase out the door, a tiny part of me wished he were here begging me not to go. When I got to the airport, I tried not to want him to come running after me, calling out my name and stopping me from getting on the plane. When I sat in my window seat, I even hoped he would come and sit down next to me or start singing to me over the airplane's intercom, but the seat next to me was still empty when the plane took off and when it landed. He let go. It was what I wanted. I wanted him to let go. The numbness had returned by the time I climbed into a cab at the airport to go home. Everything was familiar, but I found no comfort in it. The cab pulled up to my house. I handed him the cash, and grabbed my things. I began to trudge up the walk towards my porch, when I looked up and froze. Edward. He stood up as soon as he saw me. He was wearing the same clothes he had on 2 days ago. His hair looked like an oily mess, and there was 3 days' worth of scruff on his face. The dark circles under his eyes told me he hadn't slept much. How did he get here before me? I wanted to run to him, but I couldn't. Part of me rejoiced that he had come after me, but the other part was devastated that I was going to have to go through the pain of making him leave again. We stood staring at each other for what felt like a long time. "You're just making this harder for both of us," I finally said, barely loud enough for him to hear me. "No, I'm making this right." He took a step toward me. And I took a step back. I searched my soul for the strength to send him away. I didn't know if I could do it. "You need to leave," I said, and moved to walk around him to my door. "I'm not leaving. We're going to talk about this." He grabbed my wrist and stopped me. "Well, you're not welcome here," I said defiantly. "I don't care. I'll stay out here until you listen to me. There's nothing you can say." I tried to pull my arm back, but he wouldn't let go. "I talked to Alice, and you're wrong. I don't want to record. I don't want to be famous. I don't want to tour. I don't want any of it. If that's what you really want, I'll sign for you, but I won't do it without you. You're being stupid. How can you say you don't want it? You want it," I yelled. "I don't." "Yes, you do. You just don't think you do. But you do." I pushed on his chest, trying to get away from him. Damn it. He let me go and I stumbled backwards. I'm so sick and tired of everyone telling me what I should do and what I should want. "Well, you wanted it before. You've been mad at your family for years because you didn't get to sign when you were 17, I argued. "I was 17. Did you have our life figured out when you were a teenager? Why are you punishing me for being a stupid kid? I know what I want now, and it's you. But if you don't respect me enough to let me decide what's best for me, then you're right. It will never work. You'll resent me later." My voice cracked. "You love performing. I don't love people telling me what to do and when and how to do it. How have you not noticed that? I thought you understood me. Out of everyone, I thought you got it." The pain in his eyes was breaking my heart all over again. The weight of what I'd done to him hit me full force. I'd let him down. I wanted to do something selfless because I loved him, and instead I'd just treated him like every other person who hurt him. I get it. I do. Oh God, I've turned into Alice. I buried my face in my hands. "Bella, it's not funny." He was angry now, seething. He hated me. I wasn't joking. "I do respect you more than anyone, I just'll hold you back. You deserve better. Stop it. Just stop it." He grabbed my shoulders and shook me. He couldn't possibly hate me any more than I hated myself. "Stop thinking you're something I'm settling for. You are not the Mike in this relationship. You were everything to me." He yelled furiously. The past tense of his words stung. "But why?" I cried out. "It doesn't make any sense. I have nothing to give you. I can't write songs. I can't even tell you how I feel about you without making a joke out of it. I can't make you feel beautiful, because you already know you're perfect. I can only hold you back." His grip on my shoulders softened and his voice shook. "Bella, what do you want for me? Do you want me to be miserable? Is misery the gift you're trying to give me here? Because that's what I'll be without you. You gave me everything. You gave me a reason to get out of bed in the morning. You changed me. You made me better. You made me happy. Please don't take that all away from me. I need you. You're the first person I've felt connected to in as long as I can remember. Why can't you believe that I need you? Edward, feelings like that change. We're infatuated with each other now, but what about 5 years from now? What about when you get tired of me saying stupid things in front of other people and trying to make everyone else happy? You're going to wish you'd done something different. It happens to lots of couples. I can't bear the thought of you being stuck with me and wishing you weren't. Is it so wrong that I have faith in us? My parents did it. I can do it. It's not always going to be easy, but I'm not giving up. You're giving up. Too can't believe you would do this. His shoulders slumped and he looked down. Then he exploded. I'm so angry that you're giving up so easily. I could see him shaking and the angry tears pooling in his eyes. His hands fisted at his sides. I don't want to. I sobbed. Don't want what? He asked angrily. I don't want to give up. I'm scared. I'm so scared. I'm scared of losing you, I cried. You're never going to lose me. I won't let you. I know you love me, and I'm not letting you go. I can't. I can't go on without you, Bella. Please. Please, he begged. Edward wiped at his eyes with his sleeve. I couldn't believe that he was begging me to be with him. I should be the one begging him. I was so stupid. I couldn't go on without him either. I would be sentencing myself to some sort of half-life. I need you. I need you to love me. Please. Edward the First can't be without you. The dam broke as tears ran down my face at full force again. I told you, I'm not letting go, he said and finally moved to wrap his arms around me. I cried into his chest as he held me so tightly it almost hurt. I felt all the fear and dread evaporate as we held each other. I think we should go inside. Edward finally loosened his hold on me, but he didn't let go. I'm sure we've scared your neighbors. Okay. I nodded. Edward picked up my suitcase and followed me up the stairs onto the porch. I unlocked the door, and he followed me inside. I set my keys down on an end table and turned back to face him. We'd made some headway, but we still needed to talk. So now what? I asked. I'm not sure. Edward looked uncomfortable. I just want everything to be okay. But I'm worried that it's not. I know. I just have done everything so fast. What if it really does? What if it wears off? I sat down on my ottoman, while Edward continued to stand several feet away. You think you'll get tired of me? He asked with pain in his eyes again. No. I think you'll get tired of me. What if you resent me for holding you back, or you wish you'd done things differently in a few years? I mean, I thought I was helping you. You can't leave me out of those kinds of decisions. I want us to be a team, to make decisions together. I don't know. Maybe I got ahead of myself. Maybe I'm more committed to the concept of us than you are. He looked up at me with sadness in his eyes, like he was disappointed in me. Like he didn't believe I loved him as much as he loved me. I hated that I was causing him pain. He still didn't understand. Edward, I'm committed. I mean, I love you more than I ever knew it was possible to love someone. I just thought I had to love you enough to let you go. You don't understand. I need you. Haven't you been listening to my mom or even my grandma comment on how different I am? I'm better with you, Bella. I'm happy. Just let me be happy. But Alice said, I think I'm the most angry that you did this because of something Alice said. Alice, who has been against our relationship from the beginning. Alice, who threw a 5-year-old fit because she got her feelings hurt. You took advice from Alice about our love life. Well, when you put it that way, you need to make a decision, Bella. You need to decide if you can love me in spite of Alice, in spite of my age. In spite of what anyone might say or do. I don't care about what anyone thinks except for you. You've got to decide if you want this, because I really don't think I could survive losing you again. He paused and waited for my answer. He was being assertive, but not harsh, and I understood what he was asking. He was asking me to decide once and for all if he was worth doing whatever it took to be together. It would mean risking my friendship with Alice, the possible disapproval of other people because of our ages, and me having to come to terms with my insecurities once and for all. The question was, could I do it? I knew I didn't really have a choice. Edward, I stood up and took both of his hands in mine. I'm not good with words like you are, and I get nervous when I try to express my feelings. I just didn't live before I knew you. I feel like I'm alive with you and I'm sorry I risked that so foolishly. If you'll forgive me, I promise I'll love you and I'll do whatever it takes to be with you always. I'm so sorry for what I did. Okay. Me too. He gave me a small smile, but he still looked tired and a little sad. Okay. I pour out my heart and you say okay. I asked confused. This was so unlike my lyricist. I'm tired, and I was so afraid I'd lost you, but I think we understand each other now, don't you? I do. I agreed and smiled at him. I like the sound of those two words coming from you. He let out a deep breath and ran the back of his hand down my cheek. My face flamed at his words, but I couldn't stop smiling. I felt whole again, and I knew that after this, and after the words that were said today, nothing could keep us apart again. We weren't my parents. We didn't have to be what anyone else thought we should be. We didn't fit into any type of perfect mold. We were just right. Edward leaned down and gave me one quick perfect kiss, sealing the promises we'd made. I wrapped my arms around his neck wanting more, but he stopped me. Bella, I really need to go to the bathroom. I was waiting outside for a really long time. Oh, how did you get here before me? I couldn't find a flight for less than $3,000. You were worth it, but I've seriously got to go. And then we need to go buy me some clothes. I let Edward go, and he scooted off to the bathroom. I fell backwards onto the couch and took a deep breath. I was still mad at myself. I was mad at Alice, too. Part of me wondered if she had purposely found my weakness and exploited it. I never would have believed that in the past, but with the way she'd been acting lately, I wasn't sure. Edward had forgiven me, and he wanted me, but I also knew that damage had been done. Trust would need to be rebuilt. Our relationship could grow stronger from this conflict, but there was still work ahead. I had to stop letting my fear of what other people thought rule my decisions. It was time to make some changes. The phoenix rises. What happened to your hand? I hadn't noticed it before. But as soon as Edward came out of the bathroom, I saw that it was red and swollen. I don't think it's broken, Edward answered, moving it behind him so I couldn't see it. Tell me what happened, I demanded, pulling on his arm so I could see it. I studied it with my eyes and kissed it gently as if that could make it feel better. I might have accidentally punched someone, Edward sighed sheepishly. What? Who? Why? I gasped. Jakob. He squinted his eyes like he was bracing for my reaction. Why? What did he do? He just said some things about you that I didn't appreciate. I don't think he'll bother us anymore. But you're hurt. And Jacob's huge. You're lucky he didn't kill you. Poor Jacob. He used to be such a cute kid, and I kind of felt sorry for him in a way. Still, Edward defending my honor or whatever was hot. He's not that big, Bella. I can handle my brother. Edward sounded annoyed. Oh no, I think I just questioned his manhood. I know you can. I kissed his hand again. I don't even want to imagine what he said. Thank you. You don't need to thank me, Edward sighed, pulling his hand back. Yes, I do. Now sit down. I pushed him back onto the living room chair and went to get some ice out of the fridge. I ended up grabbing a bag of peas and bringing it back to him. I nudged myself between his knees and picked up his hand, holding it over my heart and placing the peas on top of his swollen knuckles. He looked up at me. And I reached down with my free hand, rubbing my thumb over the dark circles under his eyes. I need things to be different, I told him. Whatever you need, Bella, I'll do anything for you. Just tell me, and I'll do it. He looked almost frantic, like he still wasn't sure we were okay. I hated I'd made him feel any type of insecurity about my affection for him. No, I mean I need to be different. You're mine. I leaned down and kissed his nose. I don't care what anyone else says or thinks or does. You matter to me more than anyone else. Oh, and I'm going to be more selfish from now on. He looked at me like he was a little bit scared. I like that. You might be better off without me, but I don't care. I ran my finger over his lips. I loved those lips. Those were my lips. Alice might be mad at me for loving you and ignoring her. I moved forward and straddled his lap, but she can just be mad. I don't care. I tossed the peas onto the ground, took both of his hands and put them on my hips. Those were my hands. Edward started to say something, but I put a hand across his mouth. You would do best not to talk right now, I said, looking him straight in the eye. He nodded slightly, and his eyes glazed over while he smirked. I ran my fingers through his messy hair. I'm older than you. So what? People can call me a cougar, a puma, whatever. I don't care. It's totally worth it. I started kissing his neck at the same time I started unbuttoning his shirt. Bella. Wait. He grabbed my wrist, stopping me. You were right before, when you said this isn't the way to fix every problem. If we need to talk more, as much as it pains me to say this, we should talk. I don't want anything else left unsaid. I smiled down at him. I knew he wasn't the type to talk it all out. He was trying to make changes for me too. For us. Do you love me? I asked. You know that I do. I'll love you forever. Now that gives us plenty of time to figure everything else out. Good. He led at me and then in one quick motion pulled us together until our lips met, and I was complete again. We were done with the heavy issue for that evening, but we weren't finished talking. While we packed up my house and got ready for the move, we spent a lot of time talking through things. We both agreed that if we were in this for the long haul, we were going to have to communicate better. I shared all of my insecurities with Edward. The scary ones, the foolish ones, the ones where I worried he would keep kissing other girls in my dreams. He listened. He got frustrated. He reassured me. I promised to keep working on them. Edward told me about his own worries, like being a good enough man to have a family or making enough money to provide for one. I found those worries completely ridiculous. I grew up with a father who was a decent guy, just not very interested in my life. He loved me, but had trouble showing it, and that hurt. Edward would be nothing like that. He was quick to express his love. He did nice things for the people he cared about. Just seeing him with Lucy was enough to convince me he would be a great dad. We talked about our plans for the future. We talked about getting married one day. We talked about having kids. We talked about the past. We talked about the next week and the next month and the next 5 years. We decided things. We made dreams together. We made it clear that we were both completely committed to the idea of us. Can I ask you a question? I didn't want to upset him, but we'd gotten to a place where we were free to discuss anything honestly. We'd been talking about the future. And though I worried he might take my question the wrong way, I thought it was at least worth bringing up. Of course, Edward answered while we packing up my kitchen. Have you thought about finishing school? He stopped packing and looked at me thoughtfully. You know, I have been thinking about it. Wow. That was not the answer I was expecting. I thought I was going to have to convince him of the benefits of having a degree. Really? What have you been thinking? I asked. I realized the other day that I really enjoyed helping Allison. I think I might like to teach music or composition or something. You know, like a day job. It would make your dad happy. I shrugged, trying to play it off like I didn't think it was a big deal. Bella, we're not living our lives to make other people happy anymore. Remember? He chastised me. Oh yeah, I just meant that would be like a bonus. I think it's a great idea, though. You would enjoy it, and it would give you something to do when you're not writing songs or when you miss me while I'm at work. Really? I don't know. What if I'm not good at it? He asked nervously. It was so cute I wanted to squeeze him. I would do that later. Number 1. You're good at everything. Number 2. Why don't you try teaching me to play music? If you can teach me, you can teach anyone. I don't know. You're not exactly naturally talented. Edward knew to duck as soon as he said it. I threw a dish towel hurtling in his direction. Sorry. He laughed. I'll teach you anything you want. Just don't ask me to give you voice lessons. At time he wasn't ready for the shoe I threw at him. Ouch. He laughed. I tried to pretend to be mad, but I couldn't help it. I laughed too. The house was packed, the for sale sign was on the lawn, the U-Haul was loaded. And my car was hitched to the back of it. It was over 3,000 miles from Massachusetts to Seattle, and we were planning to take our time. We had the old tape player in the truck rigged up to play from our iPods. And Edward put in what he called traveling music. For some reason he loved bluegrass when he drove. It was so adorable. My excitement for the future was tinged with a little bit of worry. Not everything was sunshine and roses. My dad hadn't taken the news that I was moving to Seattle to live with Alice's little brother too well. It was surprising seeing as he usually didn't care what I did. I guess the fact that I started laughing when he forbade me to do it didn't help matters much. He would get over it in a week or so. Charlie was a softie underneath that mustache. When I called my mom to talk to her about it and our plans for Christmas, she was overjoyed. Edward thought it was strange that I set the phone down and went to the bathroom while she talked. But she didn't even notice I was gone. Typical. Other than that, things with Edward's family were tense. Carlisle and Esme were not happy with Edward for breaking their baby boy's nose. After Edward told me what he said, I agreed that Jacob had it coming. Still, I could forgive him for being an idiot. My problem was Alice. She promised Edward over and over again that she hadn't meant to plant any ideas in my head. And that she didn't have a grand scheme to break us up. For the most part, one believed her. Still, I was angry about the way she treated me. She acted like I was her possession and not her friend. I put up with it because she was Alice. Because I loved her. I understood that she was in the middle of a major life transition, and that she wasn't coping with it well, but her behavior crossed a line. She went from feeling sorry for herself to not caring about anyone but herself. She didn't really care about what was best for me or Edward. She only cared about Alice. Maybe I was being silly. But I felt like it was my turn to hold a grudge. She'd been calling me every day, but I refused to answer the phone. I wasn't in the mood for her to try to make me feel guilty again for being happy. It's not like I planned to stop being friends with her. Our friendship was just going to have to adapt to me being with Edward just like it adapted to her being with Jasper. I didn't have any more energy to fight with her about it right now. It was funny how much Edward and Alice were alike. Neither of them liked anyone else telling them what to do. They both pouted. Alice just pouted a lot louder than Edward did. They both adored me. I couldn't fault them there. They were both amazingly talented and too brilliant for their own good. I think I just got them. That's why I knew I would eventually forgive Alice. Our friendship might never be the same, but I wasn't the same. Regardless, she would always be my friend. I just wanted a little more time not to have to deal with it with her. After the longest car ride in the history of the world, with Edward and I somehow managing not to kill each other, we made it to Seattle. We took the week before I had to start work to settle into life there. Our condo was cozy and adorable. Edward went overboard buying new things for it, but he rationalized that it was his first time really being on his own, and he wanted to do it right. I knew he just wanted to make me happy and spoil me. I didn't mind having a new sofa one bit. On the Saturday before I was supposed to start my job, Edward and I took a break from the work on the condo to watch a movie. He was mortified that I'd never seen The Sound of Music and convinced me to watch it with him. We'd just gotten to the part where the weird little kids sang wearing curtains when there was a knock at the door. Edward started to get up, but I stopped him. I'll get it. I know how much you love the Do-Re-Mi song. Whatever you say. He tried to play it off, but his eyes didn't move from the screen. I opened the door and found Alice standing on the other side. I sighed and was about to tell her that she needed to give us time to ourselves, but she interrupted me. I just came by tea. Oh, say I'm really sorry about what happened. It was mostly a misunderstanding, but even before that I was wrong, and I was an idiot. I was a terrible friend, and I'm going to do better. I was hoping you guys would come to lunch tomorrow. No pressure. I'm just asking. I'm okay with your choice. It's your choice after all. I don't want you to think I'm Edward was now leaning forward on the couch looking at Alice like she was crazy. I was trying not to laugh. I'd never seen her act like this before, so unsure of herself and repentant. Sonnet bossy. It was kind of freaking me out. Here, I got you these. For the house. Alice held out a pretty bouquet of flowers. They're from Pike's Place. I thought you would like them. They're nice, I said. Do you want to come in? Wait, what? I was supposed to be yelling at her, not offering her tea. I justy couldn't. No, I need to get home to feed Lucy. I just wanted to stop by and invite you since you're not answering my calls. I mean, I totally understand. I did the same thing. It's just. Oh, hi. Edward. She waved to Edward, who was watching us from the couch. Hey. He answered her coldly. Lucy really misses you. I hope you guys can come tomorrow. And there it was, the low blow. Using a baby to manipulate our emotions. I glanced over at Edward. It worked. I need to pick up more of my stuff. I'll see her then, Edward answered her, but I knew we should probably go to the lunch. It was time to mend fences. We'll see about tomorrow, I said. I'm glad you stopped by. I should probably have given her a reassuring smile, but I kind of enjoyed seeing her squirm. Really? Oh, thank you, Bella. Alice jumped into my arms, hugging me and almost knocking me backwards. I glanced over my shoulder at Edward, who was rolling his eyes. I couldn't help it. I hugged her back. I was so weak. I might have decided to be confident and strong, but I was still nervous as we drove to Alice's for lunch the next day. Will you relax? Edward sighed, putting his hand on my knee to keep it from shaking. It's my first big family thing that doesn't involve the hospital. I'm just a little freaked out. Everyone probably hates me for the way I've been treating Alice. Are you kidding? Everyone except for Jacob is furious with her. My mom and Alice have been fighting about her behavior nonstop, and Emmett sat her down to have an intervention. I'm pretty sure it involved a high five at the end. But it's amazing how she listens to him. He doesn't get serious very often, but when he pulls the big brother card, we pay attention. I'm sure he talked some sense into her. I love Emmett, I sighed. Edward shot me a dirty look. Like my big brother. Don't be ridiculous. I rolled my eyes. I was kidding. Edward tried to play it off. Sewer. I wonder if Allison's going to be there today, Edward smirked. I punched him in the arm. Hard. Ow. Why are you so violent? He rubbed his arm with one hand and drove with the other. Don't joke about that. It's not funny. I grumbled but smiled so he knew I was teasing. We walked to the doorway, and I just knew it was something I had to get through despite being nervous. I had Edward. Nothing else really mattered. Alice answered the door. I was relieved she was holding Lucy. Or she probably would have tackled me again. I let go of Edward to give her a side hug and to kiss Lucy. Lucy reached for Edward. He broke into a huge smile and tossed her up in the air, catching her while she laughed. The sound of a baby laughing had to be the best sound in the world. I was bombarded with people after that. Esme was first. She grabbed and pulled me into a tight hug. I hugged her back and sighed contentedly. My mom was not a good hugger. I loved that Esme was nothing like my mom. I was surprised that Carlisle was next. I was used to a handshake or an awkward hug from him. But this time he hugged me just like I'd seen him hug his other kids. I could feel my face turning red when he let me go. We're all so glad you're here, Bella, he said, holding my shoulders and making eye contact with me. Thanks, I squeaked out. I was really embarrassed by the attention. Embarrassed and happy. Come here, sis, Emmett boomed and grabbed me, lifting me up off the floor. I couldn't breathe, but I didn't mind. Rosalie was next. She looked at my hair, clicked her tongue in disapproval, and hugged me anyway. I just laughed and hugged her back. Jasper came from the kitchen to greet us. And as he leaned down to hug me, he whispered in my ear, "None of this was my idea. Just remember that." I gave him a questioning look, but he just shook his head and shrugged. Jacob was standing across the room, leaning against a doorframe with his ankles crossed in front of him. There were faded bruises on his face, and I realized Edward was lucky he didn't break his hand. "Hi, Jake," I said and waved at him. Surely it was safe to be friendly to him in front of the whole family. Hey, Bells. His smile lit up his whole face, and I saw my old buddy in his eyes. Thank God. Edward had obviously knocked some sense into him. Well, I held out my arms for a hug, and I heard Edward sigh behind me. Jacob sauntered across the room and wrapped his arms around me. I felt his hand on my back inching downward. But I stealthily grabbed his arm and moved it back up. Edward killing his brother could really put a damper on lunch. So maybe Jacob was still a little creepy after all. Okay. Everybody take a seat in the living room. Alice clapped her hands excitedly. I'm so happy that the whole family is here, she beamed at me. Edward was still holding Lucy, and when we sat on the loveseat she reached for me. Edward smiled at me encouraging me to take her, and I started to feel rather giddy. I made all kinds of gooey noises at her trying to get her to laugh. She giggled, and I looked up to see if Edward was watching. He was. The look on his face made me tingly. I was no mind reader, but I could tell he was imagining me holding our baby. It was sweet. Bella, we have a surprise for you. Kind of a welcome to Seattle presentation. Does everyone have theirs ready? Alice asked, and most everybody except for Edward and me started pulling out sheets of paper. Okay, I said nervously and glanced at Edward. He shrugged like he didn't know what going on and put an arm around me protectively. We know now, thanks to Grandma filling us in, that Edward first declared his love for you in the form of poems on his blog. That was incredibly sweet, by the way, Edward. Everyone looked at Edward, and he looked down embarrassed. I never told Grandma the blog was about you, he leaned over and whispered in my ear. I wasn't surprised. She would have figured it out. Since you obviously like poetry, we thought we would also declare our collective love for you in verse, Alice giggled. I'll go first, of course. She unfolded her paper and started to read. I crossed oceans and deserts to discover the ancient secrets of the universe. I saw pyramids thousands of years old. I saw wonders my eyes could barely comprehend. I met shepherds with the wisdom of the ages and holy men revered by many. But the secrets weren't in the stones or the history or the wise men. I found what I searched for. In a friend whose heart beat in time with my own. Wow, she could give you a run for your money, Eddie, Emmett bellowed and started clapping. Everyone joined in and Alice took a silly bow, handed me her paper, and bounced over to sit by Jasper. Thanks, Alice, I said, handing Edward the paper to take care of while I held Lucy. Emmett stood clearing his throat. He held a tiny piece of paper in his hand and read. Roses are red. Violets are blue. If Edward messes this up, I'll get rid of him so I can keep you. All the women in the room said, ah, while Edward acted like he was about to flip off his brother. I caught the movement and gave Edward a dirty look. He quickly stopped and started exaggerated applause instead. That's right, Edward. He should have known by then that even non-verbal cussing was off limits around me. Rosalie. Alice gestured for her to go next. Rosalie acted very formal as she stood and read her paper. Alice told me I had to write you a poem. I don't write poems. I'm glad you're here. She sat down with a defiant smile on her face, and everyone laughed but Alice. Thank you, Rose. I told her. Please tell me you did better than that, Dad, Alice said to Carlyle. He stood up to read his. A father is proud to see his son talk, to see his son walk, to see his son crawl. A father is proud to hear his son write, to find his dream, and to answer the call. A father is proud when his son says no to wrong and says yes to right. A father is proud when his son denies darkness and says yes to light. Emmett's loud yawn interrupted Carlyle's reading. Everyone shot him daggers with their eyes. Sorry, he muttered. Carlyle continued. A father is proud when his son ignores the lies and follows what is true. This father is proud that his son found you. He handed me the paper and said, we love you, Bella. All of us love you. Carlyle looked at me with such a tender, loving expression that my eyes filled with tears. I nodded my thanks to him because I couldn't get any words to come out. Edward pulled me to his side and kissed my head. My turn. Esme stood up and read her poem. I wasn't sure I could take much more. My daughter can't mind her own business. My son will make you crazy with his moodiness. Emmett is so loud he'll hurt your ears. Carlyle's talk of diseases will give you fears. My baby boy wants you to think he's fine. And if you don't give me a grandbaby, I'll start to whine. Rosie and Jasper joined us no matter how crazily. I'm not good at poems, but welcome to the family. Mom. Edward groaned, but everyone else laughed. What? You'll marry this girl? I'm sure of it. Esme winked at me. I was blushing like mad, but for some reason I didn't mind her saying that. She's right, you know, Edward whispered in my ear, making my smile even bigger. Lucy started to get fussy, so Alice took her from me. And I grabbed Edward's hand. Esme saw it and smiled at us proudly. Jacob, be good, Alice warned her brother as he stood and unfolded a piece of paper. Once upon a time, I believe it was a Tuesday, when I caught your eye. We caught onto something. I hold on to the night. You looked me in the eye and told me you loved me. Were you just kidding? 'Cause it seems to me this thing is breaking down. We almost never speak. I don't feel welcome anymore. Baby, what happened? Please tell me. 'Cause 1 second it was perfect. Now you're halfway out the door. And I stare at the phone. She still hasn't called. And then you feel so low, you can't feel nothing at all. And you flash back to when she said, forever and always. And it rains in your bedroom, everything is wrong. It rains when you're here and it rains when you're gone. 'Cause I was there when you said forever and always. Was I out of line? Did I say something way too honest? Made you run and hide like a scared little boy? I looked into your eyes. Thought I knew you for a minute. Now I'm not so sure. We all sat there with our mouths hanging open. No one knew what to do or say. Well, son, you certainly have a way with words, Carlyle finally said. Dad, that was a Taylor Swift song, Emmett said. We all shifted our confused faces to him. What? She's a talented musician. It seemed again our necks moved in unison as we looked back at Jacob in bewilderment. Guys, it was a joke, Jacob announced, and we all broke into nervous laughter. Well, Edward wasn't laughing. Thank God that was over. Okay, baby, we saved the best for last, Alice prodded Jasper. He stood but didn't have a paper with him. Of course he would have memorized it. It was Jasper after all. You've gone through miles and deserts and oceans and pain. You've been a true friend. A rock to those you love. A constant. A harbor. You have stood by us all in joy and in sorrow. You have given yourself over to waiting, to striving, to giving to everyone else but never getting your reward. I see now. The light at the end of your tunnel. The sweet smile of victory on your face. We can only hope to give you what you truly deserve. A family, a love, a place for you to belong. Welcome home. I had tears running down my face by the time he finished, but then he said, Bella, we all love you, and we promise to try and give you back as much love as you've given all of us. We don't deserve you. None of us do. He paused and glared at Edward, who tightened his grip on me, but we're so thankful to have you here. Thank you, I sobbed. I was embarrassed to be breaking down in front of them. But I'd never been surrounded by a big family that loved me before. If Edward was the cake, his family was the icing, the good kind of icing made with cream cheese or lots of butter. Ah, group hug everybody, Emmett demanded. Before I knew what was happening, everybody was standing up. Edward grabbed my hand and pulled me to my feet with them. Everybody surrounded me and everybody's arms were around each other, making a tight circle. It was a claustrophobic's worst nightmare, but finding myself in a big ball o' Cullen love was my dream. The road here hadn't been smooth, but I didn't want to be anywhere else. I had Edward, I had my best friend, I had a family. Edward smiled down at me and then planted a kiss on my forehead. I was home. Afterglow. I hate strapless, I groaned. You look elegant, dear. Esme tried to reassure me. Edward's not going to know what hit him, Alice added. I hate wearing yellow, Rosalie complained. We're going to look more like lemons than bridesmaids. I know. I think Grandma is playing some kind of joke on us by making us wear these ridiculous dresses. I tried to pull it up so it wasn't showing so much cleavage, but it was useless. The top was like a corset, while the bottom half looked something like a tutu. Grandma did have a great sense of humor. I was going to get her back for this. Marcus Voltaire proposed to Grandma after whisking her away on a romantic trip to East Asia. They came back and announced they were getting married in less than a month in Carlisle and Esme's backyard. Esme said this was Grandma's way of slowing down, but we were all skeptical. They were even worse than Edward and I. They couldn't keep their hands off each other. Most of us were thrilled about it, but ever since Grandma's heart attack, Carlisle had been worrying about her nonstop. I could finally see where Alice got some of her need to fix everything for everyone. Grandma was not one to put up with his hovering though. There was a knock on the door. "Come in," Alice yelled. Carlisle walked in, and he looked like all the color had drained from his face. "Dad, what's wrong?" Alice rushed to his side. "Marcus just asked me to refill his Viagra prescription. He's worried about running out during the honeymoon," he answered as he fell back in a chair. We all burst out laughing until Carlisle looked at us like he didn't think it was funny. Wow. He was taking this harder than I thought. "I just don't think this is a good idea. She's too old for all this activity. The doctor told her to slow down, but she's already been to Asia, and now they're going to Australia for a honeymoon. For all we know, Marcus is just using her. He probably lost all his money when the market crashed and needs Mom to support him. How do we even know they really love each other? Honey, I know you have trouble dealing with change, but I think they're good for each other," Esme said sweetly. "Yeah, and they obviously go at it like bunnies," Rosalie smirked. Carlisle glared at her. "This just all happened so fast. I need to go talk to her, and beg her to call this whole thing off. She needs more time to really think about it." He started to stand up. We all stood there with wide eyes. I'd never seen Carlisle looking so distraught. Alice grabbed his arm and stopped him. "Dad, you have to let Grandma make her own decisions. Who she wants to be with isn't up to anyone but her. And we have to respect her decision. She doesn't know what she's doing. She didn't even ask me for my blessing," he argued. Like father, like daughter. But she's an adult. She doesn't need to ask anyone's permission. You can't control her, Dad. You just need to be there for her and support her. She seems happy, and that's what's really important, right?" Alice put her arm around him. Rosalie shot me a look and rolled her eyes. I tried not to laugh. Carlisle looked like he was going to argue with her, but then stopped and let out a huge sigh. "I guess you're right. You better get ready. You know I think you're sexy in a suit," Esme winked at him. I couldn't argue with her there. I was probably going to have to stop calling him a dilf in my head though. Carlisle got up and started to stalk out of the room looking defeated. Esme reached out and pinched his butt as he walked by her, and he finally looked over his shoulder and smiled at her. "I'll get you back for that later," he flirted. "Looking forward to it." Esme waved him off. The other three of us looked like we couldn't decide if what we just saw was funny or gross. "Awkward," Rosalie finally said, and we all carried on with getting ready. "Oh, Dad, he's got a lot to learn," Alice cited dramatically. We all burst out laughing, and Alice had no idea that we were mostly laughing at her and not with her. Rosalie insisted on curling my hair, and I let her. Edward had driven down to Spokane with Grandma the night before to pick up Grandma's sister for the wedding. I thought it was strange for her to want to go get her right before the wedding. But now I realized she was brilliant. She'd made sure she missed all of Alice and Esme's last-minute wedding planning drama. Rose and I should have insisted on going with them. I was glad that Edward got to spend the time with his grandma, but it was the first night we'd been apart since I moved to Seattle. It couldn't be healthy to miss someone this much after just one night, but I couldn't help it. Finally, just when we were about to start worrying, Grandma came bustling into the room. "Alice," she growled. "Yes." Alice batted her eyes at Grandma innocently. "I specifically said nothing fancy. Why is there a truck here to deliver an ice sculpture?" Grandma asked with irritation. "Oh, that's nothing. Actually, it's a sculpture of India's national bird in honor of where you first fell in love, Alice explained. I couldn't help but giggle. Grandma glared at me. You just wait. You think she's going to mind her own business when it comes to your wedding in the fall? You're in for it, Missy. Yeah, Alice will be all over your wedding like hot fudge on ice cream. Rosalie shuddered. I still remember my wedding. Ugh. Let's not talk about it. You guys, she's going to be different with me, watch. Alice. Will be you controlling or manipulative when it comes to any part of my life, or do you trust Edward and me to make our own decisions? I gave her a pointed look. You can make your own decisions, I swear. Alice held her hands up in surrender. Thank you, Alice. See, Grandma, I can let Bella make her own decisions, Alice said proudly. We all rolled our eyes and groaned at her, but she was Alice. What could we do? Esme and Alice helped Grandma get ready. She insisted on wearing white, even though it was technically her fourth marriage. She still claimed the second one didn't count since a wedding performed by a Bedouin priest wasn't legally binding in Tajikistan. When it was finally time for the ceremony, we took our places near the back door. Personally, I couldn't wait for it to be over. I loved Grandma and Marcus, but their PDA was going to be gross, and I was in a hurry to get to Edward. I had no idea how this family was brave enough to keep having outdoor weddings in Seattle. But it seemed to work out for them. I was having mine in a church with stained glass windows like a normal person. My mind started drifting as I waited for my signal to walk. In just 4 months I would be Bella Cullen. I could still barely believe it. Edward proposed at the Mark Piper concert in New York when we went there for New Year's. The trip was my Christmas present to him. He surprised me by going on stage, singing a song he wrote called Forever Isn't Long Enough, walking backstage where I was waiting, and kneeling down. I was already about to swoon watching him sing, but when he said the words, "You're my everything. Will you be my wife too?" he literally had to catch me. It was soon. I wasn't expecting a proposal. We'd only been together for a short time, but we were both confident that it was where we were heading. He convinced me there was no reason to wait, and I agreed. I was ready to start our life together. The music started, and I began the walk down the aisle. I felt completely ridiculous and self-conscious. All of my colleagues, including my boss, were watching me walk in this ridiculous strapless lemon costume. I could feel myself blushing, but as soon as my eyes found Edward standing with the other groomsmen, every bit of apprehension was gone. He was smiling, the way he did just for me, and I could tell he liked what he saw. I winked at him, and I saw his Adam's apple bob as he swallowed hard. The way he looked at me always made me stand taller. He made me feel beautiful, confident. Edward kept staring at me during the entire ceremony. Instead of embarrassing me, it just made me giggle. He must look utterly ridiculous to the rest of the people watching. Hopefully no one else noticed he wasn't paying any attention to the bride and groom. I had to stop glancing at Edward before I really laughed and embarrassed myself. I focused my eyes on Grandma instead, and as she and Marcus exchanged their vows, a lump formed in my throat. I didn't want to get emotional, but I felt really grateful that I had crossed paths with her. She was the reason I met Alice and later Edward. I owed so much to her, and I really wanted to emulate her. She loved life and refused to let anything hold her back. She was brilliant, but her greatest talent was making people feel important and respected by her. That was the kind of person I wanted to be. It was the kind of person I was starting to become. The ceremony finally ended, and I'm pretty sure most of the people looked away when they kissed. Marcus's dentures seemed to always come loose at the worst moments. I took Edward's arm to follow them down the center aisle as the music played and everyone applauded. He leaned over and whispered, "You look beautiful," in my ear. I was smiling so and ealing so happy that my face hurt. If there was one thing Esme and Alice knew, it was how to throw a party. The way they'd decorated with the flowers, the lighting, and even the Indian birds was just breathtaking. The music and the food made it feel festive, like a true celebration. I was having more fun than I'd thought possible at a senior citizen's wedding. My mind kept drifting back to work. And what it would be like on Monday. I was excited for Grandma and Marcus to leave for their honeymoon. It would mean I got first dibs on all the stories in our department for the next month. Marcus was a great teacher. But he didn't always like to share the good stuff. This would be my chance to really shine. After years of doing grunt work, I felt like I was finally coming into my own. After he made me dance, I made Edward go get me something to drink. I was waiting for him to return, when Grandma and Marcus waved me over to where they were standing. Darling, I wanted to introduce you to someone. Grandma said, grabbing my hand and pulling me to her side. I'm sure you've heard of Daniel Montgomery. He broke that story on the French government supplying weapons to Hamas. A handsome man in his early 40s stood next to her and flashed a heart-stopping smile at me. His dark hair was peppered with gray, and he looked distinguished. I reached out my hand, as my mind replayed Grandma's words. Daniel Montgomery. Wait. The Daniel Montgomery. My eyes almost popped out of my head. I'm such a fan. I've followed your work since I was in college. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm shaking your hand. Oh no, I'm still shaking your hand. I should probably let go, but you're Daniel Montgomery. You're so young. I always pictured you as like my dad's age, but you couldn't be past 40, and I don't think it's likely you had any kids when you were 10. I faintly heard Marcus clear his throat. I'm going to stop talking now. My face turned red as I realized I'd just humiliated myself in front of my hero. You're right, Marcus. She's a delight. Daniel lifted my hand he was still holding and kissed it. I just giggled, still afraid of what I might say if I opened my mouth again. In an instant, Edward was by my side. He handed me my glass, and held my left hand. I might have been imagining things, but I thought he was holding it in a way that pointed my diamond straight at Daniel. Daniel Montgomery. This is Edward Cullen. I introduced them. Daniel is a famous reporter. I always wanted to be him when I grew up. I'm her fiancé, Edward said as they shook hands. Of course, your grandparents told me all about the two of you. Daniel said. Bella, Marcus has shown me some of your work, and I'm quite impressed. Perhaps you'd consider doing some freelance work with me. Really? My voice cracked like a 13-year-old boy. Everyone laughed except for Edward. I was too excited to be embarrassed. Of course, Daniel answered. Why don't I call you before I leave town, and we can get together to discuss it? That would be fantastic. A dream come true. I never imagined an opportunity like this coming my way. I mean, wow. Thank you. Bella. Grandma interrupted. Huh. I looked over at her, and then she, Marcus, and Edward all said. Shish. Oh. Right. I smiled. Well, I think it's time for more dancing, Marcus said and took Grandma in his arms. Daniel opened his mouth, but before he could say anything, Edward grabbed me and started pulling me toward the dance floor. I gave Daniel a quick wave and set down my glass, nearly spilling it as I followed Edward. When he stopped, he yanked me against his body and held me tight. What's gotten into you? I asked, surprised. I just wanted to dance, he said, but he didn't look in the mood for dancing. He looked grumpy. I don't believe you. He tried to distract me by moving my hair off my shoulder and kissing my neck. No way, buddy. We talk when something's bothering us, remember? Now spill it. He let out a sigh and said, I just didn't like the way he was staring at you. And then you got all flustered. I thought I was the only one that did that to you. He looked so cute and pathetic. I just wanted to snuggle him and then feed him treats. You're jealous? I asked with a wide grin. Of course I am. He rolled his eyes. That's great. You say the weirdest things. He looked puzzled and shook his head at me. Oh, I just mean, I thought I was the only who got jealous about dumb stuff. It's nice to see I'm not the only crazy one in this relationship. As if you could ever have anything to be jealous of. I'm head over heels in love with you. Say that one more time, please. He gave me his sexy little grin, and I melted inside. I'm head over heels in love with you. I repeated, tightening my arms around his neck and resting my head on his shoulder. A few minutes later, Grandma insisted Edward go up on the stage and sing. As head groupie, I took it as my duty to stand near the stage and ogle him. He looked down at me, and it was like we were the only two people here. I could feel how much he loved me, how much he desired me. I felt my breathing grow ragged and my heart beat faster. I started fanning myself with my napkin. Edward sang, and Jasper walked up to me and put an arm around my shoulders. "Swan, you look all hot and bothered," Jasper chuckled. I smiled as Edward sang to me. "I know. I'm burning up," I laughed. I couldn't control it. I was on fire. Eternal flame. "Don't touch me," Bella growled right after I kissed the back of her neck. I had just woken up. I thought she was still asleep on her side with her back to me. It was time for us to get ready or we were going to be late. "What's wrong?" I sighed. This pregnancy had been harder on her than the others. Twice as hard. "Are you kidding me?" She tried to sit up in bed, but she was stuck like a beached whale. Her arms were flailing, and I grabbed one to pull her up. She let me help her but didn't stop glaring at me. "What's wrong is that I told you I didn't want to have more kids. I know you secretly did. And this is all your fault. I'm pretty sure we were both consenting adults." I smirked at her, trying to lighten the mood. "Oh, no way, buddy, that smile is not going to work on me this time. Yesterday the nurse said this was considered a geriatric pregnancy. I'm way too old to be having these babies." "Bella, you're not old. You're 36, and I thought you said you were happy we're having the twins." I tried to soothe her. "I'm happy I'm having the twins. I'm just mad at you for making me pregnant. Everything hurts. I can't get my shoes on. I can't even sit up in bed," Bella complained. "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." I trailed my fingers softly up her swollen calf and tried to tell her with my eyes that I meant it. "I mean it. Cut that out. Every time you look at me like that I end up pregnant again," she snapped, but I could tell she was starting to melt. "Do you know how sexy you are to me? I think you're even sexier when you're pregnant." I leaned down and kissed her bare shoulder, making my way to the crook of her neck where I knew she liked it. I felt her tremble beneath my lips. We had been together for almost 7 years, and I couldn't believe how much I still desired her. Even when she was this well big. Just as I began to move her back on the bed, kissing down her shoulder to her chest, we heard a shriek from the other room. I stopped, resting my forehead on her arm. Bella let out an audible sigh. "See what I mean? With 2 more, this will never happen. Ever. I'll go." I groaned and rolled off the bed. "Edward, wait," Bella called out. A small smile spread across my face. Claire could just keep shrieking if Bella was that desperate for me right now. I slowly turned and gave the look that she always said she couldn't resist. "Oh, get real." She rolled her eyes at me. "I just need help getting out of bed. We're going to be late getting to Alice's if we don't start getting everyone ready." I couldn't help but laugh at the situation. I was incredibly turned on by my wife who was so pregnant she couldn't even get herself up, but I couldn't do anything about it, because our 4-year-old was in the other room screaming about who know what. Gracie had probably hidden her lip gloss again or her hair didn't have enough volume. I helped Bella up and went to see what was going on with the girls. Claire was holding a brush and a pink dress and crying at the top of her lungs. Izzy was still in her crib but she was giving Claire her most threatening look. Well, as much as an almost 2-year-old could threaten. "Claire, baby, what's wrong?" I asked as I picked up my little angel who wrapped her arms around my neck and cried into my shoulder for a minute. I shushed her and ran my fingers through her hair. "It's okay, sweetie, Daddy's here." Claire finally stopped crying long enough to breathe and said, "Izzy won't wear this pink dress or let me brush her hair. I told her she needs to look pretty for Auntie Alice, so Auntie Alice will give her more candy. But she just keeps trying to bite me." "Sweetheart, that's your dress and it's too big for Izzy. I just wanted her to look pretty, Daddy. Her hair is so ugly, I can barely stand to look at it." Claire put her hands over eyes dramatically while Izzy just sat unaware in her crib and chewed on her teddy bear's ear. That girl loved to chew on things. Toys, furniture, her sisters. Bella got angry that I laughed when she bit us, but she was just so cute, kind of like a little puppy. Claire, you can't keep trying to tell Izzy what to do. I know you're her big sister, and you think you know what's best for her. But she's still just a baby. We need to give her a chance to learn how to do things too. But Auntie Alice said it is my job to make Izzy fashion forward, Claire argued. I understand, I sighed. Annoyed with my sister for turning Claire into her own personal mini-me. Why don't you go make sure your Barbies are all fashion forward? Okay. Daddy. Sorry for waking you up. Claire kissed me on the cheek before I put her down. I was awake. I sighed as she skipped out of the room. I turned and looked at Izzy, who giggled. Did you bite your sister? I growled at her playfully. Okay. Daddy. She smiled proudly. I told you not to bite your sister. I slowly moved toward her and held out my hands like I was going to tickle her. She screamed and laughed and moved toward the corner of the crib. I grabbed her and tickled. Before I threw her up in the air and caught her. She squealed in delight as I started planting slobbery kisses all over her face. Stop. Daddy. Come on. Let's drive. You in something pink so your sister and aunt will be happy. Okay. Daddy. In less than 3 minutes, I had Izzy's diaper changed, dress on, shoes on, hair brushed, with a cute little pink bow on. Her headband that I knew Claire would approve of. Come on, let's go make breakfast. Okay. Daddy. Part of me wanted her to talk more, but I knew from experience that my girls expanding their vocabulary was not always a blessing. I plopped Izzy down in her high chair and pulled out the eggs along with the muffins I'd made the night before. Izzy started singing as I cracked the eggs into the bowl. And I started singing harmony with her babbles. I just knew she was going to be the musical child. Izzy was our little diva, and Gracie was bound to be an actress. She was dramatic and her imagination was bigger than our house. Our favorite and least favorite thing about Gracie was how expressive she was. She loved to talk. She loved to tell stories. She was just like her mom when she excited, she couldn't shut up. It was adorable and exhausting. We'd already gotten 3 notes sent home from kindergarten about her excessive talking. Bella was worried about it, but I thought it was funny. I'd been working with her in the afternoons on being quiet for longer and longer amounts of time, and it seemed to be working. Bella was amazed and thought I was the most talented parent in the world. I would never disagree with her. I had found very few things in life that I truly enjoyed besides music. Bella had been my salvation from my melancholy, and so it was only natural that she had also given me the one thing, no, 3 things, soon to be 5, that made me truly happy. Being their father was something I excelled at, and I loved my work. I tried going to school with grand plans of teaching music while I continued to write. I thought I needed a regular job to seem like a man that was good enough to be Bella's husband. The problem was that once I started, I was miserable. Bella's job was demanding and she ended up working long hours. I would go to class every day where I was constantly frustrated that I knew more than my professors. Then I would get home and need to spend all evening composing or doing homework. Writing music for a grade seemed to zap the creativity right out of me. I didn't have enough time to spend with Bella. We missed each other. I hated school. I hated having people tell me what to do and what to write. I was trying to stick it out, because that's what I thought a man did. They made sacrifices for the people they loved, for the woman they loved. The day Bella told me she was pregnant, that all changed. She was upset. Not about having a family with me, but about the timing. Marcus was giving her more and more responsibility, and that Daniel CK had been sending her on freelance assignments. She was worried about having to choose between that and being a good mother. I threw out the idea thinking she would hate it. I worried she would think I was being lazy or just trying to get out of finishing school. I couldn't believe it when she burst out laughing and then hugged me because she was so happy. She said she had been wishing I would just quit school because I was so miserable, but that she hadn't wanted me to think she didn't believe in me. I wanted to stay home with the baby. Bella wanted to keep working. It was actually the perfect solution, and Bella was perfect. And we were perfect together. 5 years and 3 little girls later, I was still home with the kids, and I was good at it. Our family grew quickly, and it wasn't easy. But we did what we had to and made it work. Everyone else thought we were crazy, but we didn't care. We were happy, and the girls were happy. Gracie, put down your father's Grammy. I told you it's not a toy. Bella roared while she waddled after Gracie, who was running through the house with my award. Okay, so maybe she wasn't happy that very moment, but overall I knew she didn't regret any of the choices we'd made. Loving someone so completely and knowing that they loved you completely in return had changed us both for the better. There was nothing I couldn't do with her by my side. She made me more. She made me alive. She came into the kitchen after putting my Grammy back on the mantel with the others and backed herself into a chair, plopping down the last few inches. I'm sorry I didn't get breakfast made. It's the weekend. You shouldn't have to do anything. Shush, Lois. You know I don't want you to do anything but sit there and look beautiful. She'd put on a long blue dress that reached her feet. Her hair was up, and while I preferred it down, I enjoyed the view of her shoulders and neck too. Stop looking at me like that, super hands. We have hungry mouths to feed. Daddy. Okay. Izzy agreed and we all three laughed. I called Gracie and Claire in for breakfast, and I saw Bella's eyes start to glaze over as Gracie spent the entire meal telling us about the dream she had the night before where she met Oscar the Grouch on a spaceship. Bella looked exhausted already, and we hadn't even left the house yet. Carrying two instead of one, plus her increased work schedule had made everything more difficult this time, and I was worried she was pushing herself too hard. I tried to make sure she had plenty of time to relax and took her mood swings with a grain of salt. It wasn't so bad now that I knew what to expect. We'd been through this before. Gracie and I finished the dishes from breakfast, while Claire and Bella argued about Claire wearing mascara. I didn't know why Bella bothered with this one. We both knew Alice would just put it on her as soon as we got to her house anyway. I packed up the diaper bag and started loading everything into the car. Had just finished head strapping in the last of the girls when Bella climbed in. Did you get Lucy's present? Bella asked. Got it, I said. What about the baby sling? The kids might want to walk to the park. Got it. Oh, we need sunscreen. It's supposed to be sunny today. Bella started to get out of the car, but I grabbed her arm. I've got it, dear. Don't worry. She looked at me, took a deep breath, and tears started to pool in her eyes. I'd obviously done something wrong. I probably made her feel like we didn't need her or like a bad mother for forgetting sunscreen. She probably felt insecure that Izzy said daddy more than mommier. You're just so wonderful, she sobbed. Oh, I was not expecting that one. I love you so much. You're so good to me. I grabbed her hand and kissed and held it firmly in my lap as I backed the car out of the garage. Daddy. Why is mommy crying? Gracie asked. Because mommy loves daddy so much, I explained, winking at Bella, who smiled at me through her tears. So love makes you sad? Gracie asked. Not exactly, baby. I answered before Bella had a chance to explain to Gracie how love could sometimes make you sad. Once those two got started, it was hard to stop them. Well, I cried the other day when I fell off the swing. And then Kelsey said I was clumsy, and I don't know exactly what clumsy means, but I told her I was not clumsy. I am a princess, right, Daddy? Of course, princess. You know, in The Princess and the Frog. The boy frog said it wasn't slime, it was mucus. Mucus is what comes out of your nose when you sneeze. Did you know that, Daddy? Yes, Gracie. Micah eats his boogers at school. Boogers are mucus. Uncle Jacob told me to blow my nose on Uncle Emmett's pants one time, but I don't think Uncle Emmett would like to have mucus on his pants. Jacob told me that I am the prettiest girl he has ever seen. Daddy. I think I'm going to marry Uncle Jacob someday. I think he's so handsome. Just like a prince or like you, Daddy. I noticed Bella rubbing her temple like she had a headache. Gracie. Baby. Do you think we can try the quiet project now? We still have about 10 minutes before we get to Auntie Alice's. How long do you think you can be quiet for? Oh, Daddy. I think I can do it for the rest of the time. But Uncle Jacob told me to make sure you pay me time and a half on the weekends, so I'm going to need 75 cents per minute. Is that math right, Daddy? I glanced over at Bella sheepishly. I was busted. Yes, Gracie, time and a half, that's air fine. Let's just start now. You've been paying our daughter to be quiet. Bella seethed through clenched teeth. It's been working, I shrugged. We'll talk about this tonight. She was mad. I rubbed my thumb across her knuckles, lovingly, and she snapped her hand away from me. I need to check my email, she said, pulling out her BlackBerry. I smiled, knowing she wouldn't be mad at me once she got the blog alert. When did you have time to write this? She asked with tears running down her cheeks again a couple of minutes later. It was in my head last night. I got up to jot it down and decided to post it on the blog instead. It's beautiful. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and tried to lean over to kiss me, but her belly got in the way. I leaned over instead and gave her a quick kiss. What's beautiful? Claire asked. Your mother. I answered, and Bella rolled her eyes at me but smiled. Daddy updated the blog about Mommy. Bella explained to her. Oh, Auntie Alice says that's so romantic when Daddy writes you those love letters. Read it, Mommy. Yeah, read it, Mommy. Gracie said and then threw her hand over her mouth. Only $3 this time, she said, defeated. Okay, girls, I'll read it. She rushes in and smiles at me as she walks past, putting her bag down and taking off her scarf and her coat. Like she always does. I sit, and I watch. I'm content to watch and not talk. But she likes it when I talk. The thing is, I like talking to her. That's the thing. That's everything. She's animated and dramatic. She's fun and life and soft and flowers. Nothing about her is safe. Every time she touches me, I'm acutely aware of her danger. I stare at her. The miles fly by, and before I know it, she's more and I'm more and we're more together. I pinch myself and wonder, how do I deserve this? That's the thing. That's everything. The little things. The way I make her walk in front of me so I can watch her hips sway. She makes me soup when I'm sick and lets me hold her when she's cold. I tell her she's pretty, and she makes me feel strong. Her touch sets me on fire but puts out my flames. That's the thing. That's everything. Okay, Daddy, Izzy shouted as soon as Bella finished reading the poem, and we all laughed. Bella reached over and innocently put her hand on my thigh. Such a simple little act like that made me crazy. I couldn't stop the frustrated groan that came out of my mouth as my head fell back against the headrest. Bella giggled from her seat. I should have known when we were interrupted this morning that it was going to be a long day. We pulled up in front of Alice's house, and before I even had the car in park, Gracie and Claire went running inside. Izzy struggled with the buckle on her car seat, frustrated that her sisters could undo their own. I helped my baby out of the car, and then went to pull Bella up. She turned in the seat, swinging her feet out the side of the car and held her arms out for me. I couldn't help it. I laughed. She just looked so helpless. She glared at me, but I could see the smile playing behind her eyes. I pulled her up, and she held onto me, wrapping her arms around my neck. It was hard to kiss her with the big mass of babies between us, but we found a way. Thank you for the poem, she whispered and kissed me softly again. I was just about to lean her back against the car, when Gracie's laughter pierced the atmosphere. Jacob came flying out the front door with Gracie on his back, followed by Lucy. I felt the water hit the side of my face before I saw the water gun in my brother's hand. Get a room, you two, he shouted. Yeah, get a room. Gracie mimicked him. I secretly resented how much my daughter adored her uncle. I didn't want there to be another man in her life. Especially Jacob. He was always trying to come between me and my girls. Calm down. Bella noticed me tensing as she wiped the water from my cheek. He's good with her. I still don't like it, I muttered. I grabbed Bella's hand and we walked into Alice and Jasper's house. Aunt Bella, your nose is huge. What happened to your face? Emmett's son Riley said to Bella as soon as we got inside. Rosalie looked horrified and grabbed him, holding a hand over his mouth. Bella just sighed. I don't know, kid, when you're pregnant everything seems to get bigger. Hopefully it will all go back to normal soon. When are you going to pop those puppies out, Bells? Emmett asked from where he and Jasper were watching football in front of the TV. They're due in about 3 weeks, the doctor said he doesn't expect me to go full term. I'm hoping I have them while we're here, she said. That would be awesome. Emmett roared. Yeah, totally awesome. Riley agreed and gave his dad a high five. Alice left Claire sitting on the kitchen counter, where she'd been putting makeup on her, and instead of telling either of us hello walked straight up to Bella's stomach. Hello there, girls. It's Auntie Alice. And I am so excited to meet you any day now. I know we will have so much fun, and I promise to buy you lots of pretty things and never to let your mommy shop at Walmart for you. Alice kissed Bella's stomach, and Bella and I both rolled our eyes. Done yet? Bella asked. I guess. Alice shrugged and hugged us both. I can't believe you're going to have 5 kids. If you have any more, you'll have to buy a bus or something. No, we could still fit in one more into an SUV that seats 8, I pointed out. Bella slowly turned and looked like she was about to kill me. Not that I've thought about that. Well, oh look, I'd better go help Jasper with the grill. I heard Bella complain about how I was taking my Sound of Music obsession overboard as I lit open the back door and went to help Jasper. What's up, Edward? You surviving? Jasper asked. Of course. I've never been better, I answered truthfully. Just then I heard Gracie crying, and looked in the direction to find Cobb carrying her around the back of the house and freezing as soon as he saw me. He was obviously trying to avoid me by coming in the back door. Busted. What happened? I practically growled at him. It's no big deal. She just skinned her knee, Jacob said defensively. She needs a band-aid. Come here, sweetie. I held out my arms, and Jacob handed Gracie over to me. What did Uncle Jacob do to you this time? It wasn't him, it was Lucy. Jacob told her to tackle me. He said it would make me a football player like him. Honey, your Uncle Jacob plays second string at a junior college, he's hardly a football player. Lucy came trudging through the backyard and up to the patio where we were. She was wearing a pink t-shirt her mom no doubt had forced her into and a pair of basketball shorts she'd probably stolen while over at Emmett's playing with Riley. Her hair was still uneven from when she'd cut it last week, causing Alice to nearly be hospitalized after having a breakdown. Lucy was covered with mud. And it only got worse when she lifted it up to blow her nose into it. Lucy, please stop blowing your nose on your shirt, Jasper groaned. Your mom will freak out if she sees you doing that again. But I didn't have a tissue. Lucy shrugged and spit on the ground beside her. Hey, Uncle Edward. She smiled and reached out her arms like she wanted to hug me. How about we hug after I get Gracie a band-aid, and you change your shirt? I couldn't help but laugh. Lucy was such a boy. A complete tomboy. It was Alice's worst nightmare come true. Jasper secretly encouraged it, and I knew he was relieved she wasn't too prissy. Little Lucy could care less about clothes or shopping. She would rather be playing baseball with Riley or making mud pies in the woods behind their house. If it wasn't for Claire worshipping the ground Alice walked on, Alice may not have been able to handle it. Alice still adored Lucy, but told everyone it was just a phase she was going through. It would be a shame if that were true. Lucy was a cool kid. We were just getting ready to eat when the doorbell rang. Oh, I think that's her. Jacob jumped up and ran to the kitchen. He came back in holding hands with a cute blonde girl, who thankfully looked his age. Amy, this is my family. He started pointing out who the different people were around the room. That's my sister Alice, she's a design consultant, and her husband Jasper. He's an anthropologist. My mom and dad, Esme and Carlisle. Over there is my oldest brother, Emmett and his wife Rosalie. That's Lucy, Izzy, Riley, Claire, and my girl, Gracie. My sister-in-law Bella, she's a writer. And my brother, Edward, the stay-at-home mom. Emmett started to laugh at my job title and Rosalie elbowed him in the ribs. He's not a stay-at-home mom, Claire argued. Mrs. Cope said he's a DILF. Everyone started laughing except for Bella and me. Bella started choking on her water, and my face turned 10 shades of red. I knew that bitch was trouble. Bella snarled so quietly that only I could hear her. My eyes almost pooped out of my head at her language, but when I looked over at her she just winked at me and shrugged. God, I wished we were alone and naked. Mommy, what's a DILF? Riley looked up at Rosalie and asked. Nothing. It's nothing, she answered quickly and everyone laughed again. Everybody, this is my girlfriend, Amy, Jacob finally announced. We all started to greet her. Except for Gracie who ran to the bedroom crying. Bella and I realized what was happening at the same moment, and she looked at me with a helpless expression. I'll take care of it, I said. Thank you. Bella squeezed my hand and I followed in Grace's direction. I found her in Lucy's room crying on the bed. Gracie, what's the matter? I asked but feared I already knew the answer. Uncle Jacob doesn't love me anymore. She sobbed. Of course he does. You can love more than one person at a time, I rubbed her back. But you only love mommy. That's not true. I love you and Claire and Izzy and your new sisters. But, how can I marry Uncle Jacob if he has a girlfriend? He probably wants to marry Amy. Gracie threw herself back down on the bed dramatically and cried harder. Baby, one day when you're around 30, just like your mommy was, you're going to meet a nice boy that you're not related to, and he is going to love you very much just like I love your mommy. Until then I have plenty of love for my best girl. So you love me more than you love Claire and Izzy. Her head perked up. I didn't say that I walked right into this one. But you said I was your best girl. She smiled. How should I handle this? She was in a fragile emotional state. I couldn't tell her she was just in the top 3. I knew what I had to do. I got out my wallet and pulled out a 5. You're my best girl, and I'll give you $5 not to mention that to your sisters. It can be our little secret. Okay. I love you, Daddy. Gracie smiled and threw her arms around my neck. When it came to fatherhood, I really was brilliant. We walked back to the living room hand in hand. Everyone had just finished filling their plates, and I felt bad that I hadn't been there to help Bella with Izzy. Gracie and I got our food. And Jacob called her over to sit with him and Amy. Gracie looked up at me to make sure it was okay, and I nodded yes. She went happily, and I knew she and Amy would be the best of friends in less than 5 minutes. I found Bella, Izzy, Claire, and Alice sitting on the back porch eating lunch. Bella was making faces at Izzy and making her giggle. I didn't think there was a more beautiful sound in the world than one of my girls laughing. Bella was the perfect mother for them. She loved the heck out of them and was fiercely protective. She was a fun mom too. She liked to take them on little adventures and was good at making each girl feel special individually. Seeing her like this with them made my heart ache in a good way. I was the luckiest man alive, and I didn't take that for granted. I bent down and kissed Bella's neck as I set my food down on the table beside hers. That was quick. What did you do? Pay her to stop crying? Bella asked sarcastically. She must have noticed the guilt. Why look on my face before I could come up with a believable answer? I can't believe you. Yeah, but you still love me. I winked at her hoping it would work this time. She took a deep breath and smiled at me. Bingo. I spent most of the rest of the day just watching Bella. It was a sight I would never get tired of. The curve of her belly underneath her dress. I'd done that to her. I watched her chest rise and fall as she laughed with Jasper, and I thought about how much I wished I were touching her right now. I watched as she held Izzy in her arms when she fell asleep, exhausted from all the rough playing with the big kids. She was beauty incarnate. The sun was just starting to set when Bella looked up at me and caught me staring. We were outside, and I was pretending to listen to Grace tell me about how wonderful Amy was. She stared back at me, and it was one of those moments in which our eyes shared more than a million words full of devotion and vows of everlasting love. We'd grown, we'd changed, we'd evolved. But we had done it together. We needed each other to make the other one whole. I was only a fraction of a man without her. Finally, we said our goodbyes, and I took my 4 sleepy girls home. It had been a fun day with my family, but the only thing I could think about was being alone with Bella. I drove home too quickly, but she didn't complain. I pulled into the garage and told Gracie and Claire to get ready for bed. They were too tired to protest. I picked up Izzy, who had fallen asleep in her car seat, and went to help Bella up with my free hand. She let out a huge yawn and said, "I'm too tired. I think I'll just sleep in the car tonight." I made her get up, and tried not to show that I was disappointed at how tired she was. I had been hoping we could pick up where we left off that morning. But she needed her rest more. I got the girls all tucked in, and when I finally made it to our bedroom, Bella was already in bed. She had on a black satin maternity gown, and T was low-cut, revealing more of her skin than I was ready for if we were just going to sleep. I pulled the covers up over her, tucking her in, and kissed her softly on the lips before walking over to my side of the bed and climbing in. I reached up to turn off the light, and my head had barely hit the pillow, before Bella said in a whiny voice, "Edward. What is it?" I shot straight up in bed, wondering what was the matter. "Two just thought. I mean, you were looking at me like that all day, and you wrote that poem, and I don't know, maybe my signals are off since I'm pregnant and all, but I didn't put on this thing for nothing. I mean, I can understand if you don't find me attractive right now. I don't find me attractive right now, but this morning you seemed all about it, and I thought we were on the same page. But then you just tucked me in. I mean, you tucked me in. Did I misread something, or?" "Bella," I interrupted her, exasperated. "What is it, Edward?" "Shish." And with that, my mouth was on hers. I was desperate to touch her, to feel every inch of her, and her kisses were urgent and needy, and the fact that she was swollen and perfect just made her infinitely hotter to me. I let out a moan. And as she grabbed my bicep and squeezed hard. "Ouch. No. Not now." She rolled away from me, looking defeated. "What is it, Bella? If you're too tired, we can." I think my water just broke. And that's a wrap. Yep. It ends here. Time to move on. Another new fiction is already in the works. Have a great day. Bye.